Hello and welcome to For Future Generations episode 55. We got a very fun show today. We've got a guest, a very interesting guest who we're going to have on later. But we've also got a fun surprise topic from Twitter that we're going to drag in at the last minute and let people see and comment and talk about. We're going to opine. We're going to opine about pastoral ministry. Sean is not a pastor. I am not a pastor. But we do have some opinions, and there are pastors on our side, as we will see. But I am Geoffroy, as always, glad to be here, and I am joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Sean. Sean, how are you, man?
I'm good. It is appropriate that we have a cigar guy on our show tonight because I am now officially a father of three.
All right, that's right. For those of you who follow on Twitter and know Sean over there, he link in the description. If you don't follow Sean, do that. But he had his third child, his second son, and baby doing well. I mean, give us the update, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's eating, pooping, sleeping,
all the things a baby should do.
Yeah, pirate's life for me, all that good stuff.
That's right. And I mean, at this point, the baby doesn't keep you awake at all. So you're still getting pretty good sleep, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He's like 4 days old. We stay up all night, man. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, sleep's good. That's awesome. But wonderful show today. And the name of the show is How to Become a Tobacco Magnate. And we are going to have our friend on. But before we do, we want to tell you about our sponsor. And our sponsor is Deus Vult lapel pins. Deus Vult lapel pins, for those of you who do not know, the joy of Deus Vult lapel pins, these things here will spruce up any outfit. And I highly recommend them, but they are not just great on your lapel. I mean, you can see this here. You can see how beautiful that looks, right? But they also make good hat pins. So let's say you're a guy who doesn't wear a jacket to church. You're a slob, right? You're a slob, but you do wear a baseball cap out and about. You can put a Deus Vult lapel pin on your hat or your belt or your suspenders if you're an old fart. But Deus Vult lapel pins, not just for your lapel, but folks, check this out. The website for Deus Vult lapel pins. I wanted to bring special attention to a particular pin, which is the Jefferson Davis one. This week, I was all across the South. I was in Alabama. I was in Mississippi. We were looking at Confederate monuments. We saw the old White House. Got some pictures there. I got to see the bedroom where he slept and the desk where he wrote the rise and fall of the Confederate government. Great, great guy. And there is a lapel pin just for him. We also have the 250th anniversary for America. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And we also have a whole slew of Southern lapel pins for your viewing pleasure, for your showing that your pride. Here's the Bonnie Blue Texas lapel pin. And it's not just Texas. He also has a pre-release, folks. A pre-release. Don't tell anybody. But he's got one coming for Florida as well. The Bonnie Blue Florida pin. So go over to Deus Vult lapel pins. Use the code FFGDV26 for 10% off of your order. And show some love. We really appreciate him sponsoring the segment. We were repping his stuff before he sponsored us, but we really enjoy having him along for the ride. And with that said, let's get into Mr. Chance Summers. Oh boy, let's fix that. There we go. Mr. Chance Summers. How are you, man?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well, and glad to have you along. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Summers, Chance, as we call him, is he is a tobacco magnate, as the title says. We are not overstating things. He is a tobacco magnate, and as proof, he has his own website, folks. He has a website, and it is 1689cigars.com. And for those of you who do not smoke, do not worry. He's got more stuff than that. But just wanted to show people, this is the website. and got some beautiful stuff here. And I apologize for the ribbon here; makes things a little hard to see, but he's got some really cool stuff for us to be able to check out. And give his website a perusal, 1689cigars.com. But what I wanted to get into was, you are a businessman. You are a man with a plan. You have done things. You have built things. And people have questions. People want to know, how do you do it, man? How getting some echo off of you there, man. But how did you get into making 1689 cigars?
Well, is that echo gone?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think it was my headset. I turned left and it brings up.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I grew up not in a non-Christian home, and then I played Halo professionally, like a video game. So
no kidding.
Yeah, and
dude,
you bring that into your marriage. You're playing games at a very high level. My wife came to me one day and she said, "Hey, you should get a manly hobby that's not playing video games." And she bought me a box of cigars, and then the rest was history. I mean, that's kind of
nice.
the start of it. And then she bought me a nice box of cigars. Like there's lower end, medium end, and then high end. Mm-hmm. And I gravitated for like more of the medium price point, and then I'd grab some high end stuff here and there. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I could do this. And then there's a gentleman named Al Gomez. He started a company called Reform Cigars. I helped him get started on the state side. And so if you see the Charles Spurgeon, the John Knox, the Calvin, the Luther, that's Al Gomez's stuff. And so I helped him start basically selling all through the states. And then after that, I was like, I can do this too. So source my own tobacco, source my own products, being able to build the bands, build the boxes, things of that nature. And then we launched our first blend, I think about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And now we have probably hundreds of different blends that are on the market now.
Fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, Chance and I met, I guess it was a little over a year ago now, right? At the Right Response Ministries conference. You had your table up in the back, and I bought several cigars from him, and I tried them, and I can recommend. Okay, this is not a sponsored segment. This is just, he's a bro, all right? And it's good stuff. I like it. And I have tried several different boutique cigar guys. I mean, and I'm not trying to dog on them, but there are a lot of guys who start out with a little boutique cigar kind of thing. We're going to release 2 or 3 cigars here and there, and they're just not good. And I know there's a learning curve to all of these kinds of things, but was there a struggle for you when you first got started? Like, what is the learning curve of knowing how to prep these things, how to build them? What was that like when you first got started, even before 1689, when you got into building your first cigars?
Well, I would say like, how all Cretes are liars. That's all South Americans. So yeah. my first adventure, I lost like 20 grand off of trying to purchase a bulk sell with a guy down in Miami. He overpromised and underdelivered, and I still don't have the cigars that I purchased. And so, they're
probably not any good now if he hadn't been storing them right.
Yeah. So I started with, 100 sticks, $800, and I thought, it's just going to be a side gig. And then it just blew up. And so we started making all of our own product, and then started sourcing everything. I code, so I built my entire website. So the website you see is built by me. That's nice. The nerdy side. And then also, when you think of a blend, like we're releasing a Unity line, which it'll be going out Monday. We've been teasing it for probably the last year or so. And so the blending process is a long process. So you have to start with your wrapper leaf. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do San Andreas? It means it's going to be a little bit stronger because a Mexican leaf. If you want to do Ecuadorian, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have to get all of that raw material to your factory, which is typically, you might hear my daughter in the background. Which is typically, typically hard to source and get to a factory to roll for you. And so you source it, you make it, and then you test it. You source it, you make it, you test it. And you might do this 30 times before you actually have a good blend, or you have qualified rollers. So you have people who roll cigars and they're like, oh yeah, we promise these are long filler, and they come to be medium filler, or they're short filler, and they're not the standard by which we were want to have as a company.
Right. So for those who aren't aware, could you describe for people kind of the different parts of a cigar? So this is a cigar that I bought from you. It's the Christ is King, the green ribbon. And I've got one that's in a very dark wrapper here. And I've got one that's, ignore the break there. That's my fault. I let these get a little too dry. So I'm going to have to rehydrate them, and hopefully they don't sour from that. But that's my fault, not Chance's. But this one it's not quite a Connecticut. It's not quite a Maduro. It's almost a little bit in between the two. But the different parts of a cigar, Chance, you've got the foot, right? And this end here, is this called the head, right?
So that's the foot, and the
this
first
is the
one.
Foot. And this is the head.
The cap. Yeah,
the cap. Right, yeah. Of course. And, the cap on a cigar, for those of you who don't know, a cigar is sealed. You actually have to cut them open to smoke them. You light the foot, typically with, you hold your flame a little bit. But when you look at the cigar, what you're seeing here is the wrapper, right? This is a different leaf from what's inside it, the filler. On most cigars. Some cigars are the same all the way through, but most cigars have a little bit difference between the filler and the wrapper, and each of those things affects the flavor differently. So when you go to make a cigar, like what are the elements that you're trying to bring together, right? When you visualize something in your head and you're like, I want to make that, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so a Maduro, just the direct translation for Maduro is aged. So when you think of a darker wrapper, it just means it's set in a barn for a longer time and it's fermented and it's aged. So you have a fermentation process that takes place. Typically, a Maduro will be, I don't know, 3 years, maybe 7, depending on the higher end stuff. And then you have on your Maduro leaves, you have kind of this vinegary taste. If it's too young, it tastes bitter. It tastes a little bit like vinegar. And so the sweet spot for Maduro is about 3 years of age. So if you think of like a bourbon, you got a 3-year barrel, 5-year barrel, 7-year, 10-year, etc. And so the same thing with cigar leaves. You ferment them, and then you choose your wrapper, and you build the entire cigar around the wrapper. So those two they're called Nicaraguan puros. So every one of those cigars, all the tobacco comes from Nicaragua. So the binder, the filler, the wrapper is all puro. And so that one, the Habano there, is Jalapa and Esteli is where the tobacco comes from. So I think it's a Esteli wrapper, and then if I'm remembering correctly, it's Jalapa for the binder and filler. And and
these are all different species, right? Like you might have different heirloom tomatoes. You've got Roma tomatoes, beefsteak tomatoes. You've got the same thing with tobacco, which is related to tomatoes, right? They're both a nightshade. You've got different species, and that affects the flavor as much as it does peppers. You've got jalapenos and serranos and bells, all very different from each other. Same thing going on with tobacco too.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you were to spitball and throw a number out there, like how many different species of tobacco that are like noticeably different from each other that you can build into a cigar, how many of those are there? Like that you particularly can get your hands on, not just extant.
So I think in our repertoire, I think there's about 700 different, what we call as blends, or things that we can put into the blend. And so the one that you just held up is a Habano wrapper. So that's not the Maduro, but it comes from a Cuban seed origin. So the seeds they originated in Cuba. They went to the DR. They went to Nicaragua. They went to Ecuador.
Right.
All these
when the communists took over, people fled and they brought their stuff with them.
Yeah.
Right.
So those cigars are called New World cigars. Old World cigars are Cubans. And so, yeah, and Cuba, like, I have tons of Cubans in my own collection, but there's really the only difference between a Cuban and a New World is the Cubans are a little bit sweeter because as the plant grows, it takes off some of the nutrients of the soil. So we call it the Cuban twang. So when somebody gives you a Cuban cigar, if it doesn't have like this sweet twangness to it, it's probably Dominican. And there's a lot of fake Cubans on the market because they're a huge market, and even the fake Cubans are stupid cigars unless they're full of paper and stuff. So you gotta watch out for those beach cigars that come around to you.
Right, and so there's so many different types of cigars, and there's some companies who are starting to move towards American, as in United States, full-grown tobacco, and that's cool. But there's certain flavors and things that people want out of a Cuban cigar, or I've noticed a friend of mine whose wife is from Honduras. She will bring home, every time when she goes and visits family, she'll bring home some Honduran cigars, and these are just made by the hoi polloi, the little people, the farmers and their daughters who are rolling cigars, and they're really good. You can get some real gems that don't have a famous ribbon on them, but people who know what they're doing making these things. So it's a very cool subject. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but you also have a new cigar that you're launching. You're actually announcing it tomorrow, and I pulled his arm, guys. I twisted his arm. He told us we could announce it here on our show, but this is the 1689 Cigar Unity Barber Pole. And let me get this image. Let's see. I'm going to open this image in a new tab and share it, because this thing here is just gorgeous. So tell us what is going on, Chance, in this cigar. What were you looking for? What was the build process like? How did this come about?
Yeah, so that cigar is called a dual wrapper, which I have right here. It's a Maduro and Connecticut wrapper that is put together like a barber pole, and so we call it a barber pole. And on it, we're going to do the three forms of unity as other lines of cigars, but we wanted to do a unity line just because in our community, in the reform world, everybody wants to divide and then call each other heretics. So we thought, what a better market than to grab a cigar that says unity on it, smoke it with a brother, and disagree over,
disagree over theology, but have unity nonetheless.
Yeah. And so barber pole mixed between Connecticut. So Connecticut leaf actually originates from the Connecticut Valley, which is, you guys should look up the Night Riders here. They're actually famous. Hopkinsville and Clarksville, actually where I live, is where they fought the Duke. And Duke University used to be called Trinity University. Duke gave them a whole bunch of money, and then they renamed it Duke. But Duke made his money off of the backs of blue-collared tobacco farmers. And so he was running the market up to where they couldn't sell their product because they would have to sell it to him as he would sell it to others. And he would run their market down, but then he would run his market up. And so the Night Riders got mad, and then they went and started burning down all of his barns. And then they finally... Oh,
no.
Yeah, so they finally got the market corrected so they could provide for their family. And then tobacco got so expensive and just so out of hand for farmers to make or to produce here in the States, it had to go offshore. And so you can blame Duke University, and if you're a Duke fan, sorry, he was not good for the tobacco industry.
Wow. Interesting history there. So one other thing, Sean, did you have some questions or?
Eventually I would like to talk about one aspect of like how you build the cigars, I guess I don't know if that's the best terminology, but kind of what you were explaining. Because in a previous episode, basically Jeff had dedicated like an entire episode to just like breaking down that Wasson watches weren't like legitimate nice watches. And he was like talking about how it was basically taking some other guy's case and some other guy's movement and some other guy's strap, and you could build this yourself. But you're talking about something truly unique. Like you're creating something that, you know, you can't go and buy all these pieces yourself and put it together. Like you're actually making you buy somewhere else. And so I don't know if you want to talk about that and like the I guess from the business side, actually creating something new.
Yeah. So sourcing tobacco is just that. So every year you have a different yield. Every year you have a different flavor profile. So when you have like Padron 1926, what they've done is they've taken a large amount of their tobacco, they age it for their period of time, and they have a little specialty. They infuse one of the arrow leaves with a.
I'm sorry, I've got to step in real quick. I don't know if this is in Jeff's background or if the chance is in yours, but like we need to be muting mics when we're not talking because I could barely understand what you were saying. I think that actually fixed it. There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. So they take the tobacco and they age it for a certain amount of time, and then they have this consistency. Like you can smoke a Padron 1926 or 1964, and it's always going to be consistent. And that's because they have found out the right time to harvest, the right time to do this, the right time to do that. Now, with being a boutique cigar company, what you have is you source all these different tobaccos, and then you import them through Miami or Pennsylvania. Because there's 0% tobacco tax there. So you pay your import dues, you pay your tariffs, which tariffs have been crazy lately. They just go up and down. Trump, sanctioned Nicaragua to have another 100% increase on tariff. Thank goodness that didn't go through because cigars would be like $20, $30 a pop at that point. And so you have all these hoops you have to jump through. And when you're sourcing your tobacco, like I could go down to the Amish farm and grab raw tobacco, ship it to the industry the factory where we produce in Nicaragua or the Dominican, and then they could use that as a raw source. However, with the Amish tobacco, it's burley tobacco, so it's much stronger. The American palate does not like burley tobacco. The Englishmen do. They like it in their pipes. They don't like it in a roll. So there is a flavor profile that has staunchly been taken over by the Dominican and by Nicaragua, by Honduras, by Cameroon, all these different countries that the Americans love. So there are cigars that are all American, like the JC Newman. It's called the All American cigar. I smoke that every July 4th. It's my go-to on that day. And it is all American tobacco. However, that's like a typical cigar has 300 milligrams of nicotine in it. Obviously, you're not getting all that. So if you're inhaling it, you are a monster. It's crazy if you inhale your cigars. And so JC Newman, he sourced all of his tobacco from local farmers. They get it there. They roll it at the Newman's factory. I've actually watched them do it. And it's a really neat process. However, the All-American cigar is not one of their number one sellers because it's so strong. And then on top of it, like you can get a little shorty and it'll put, a 250-pound man on his butt. And so there is a lot of, I would say, family heritage in the cigar industry that is predominantly going to be South America. And I don't think that'll ever change unless America really loosens up on their tobacco laws, because if we are producing our own cigars with all the licensing in Tennessee, if we're rolling them, wrapping them, all doing everything here in Tennessee, we're going to have to charge $40, $50 a stick. And so until we can solve that issue, there's no real way to bring over the industry to the States, which I wish we could, but also we would just be importing Nicaraguan tobacco, Dominican tobacco.
Right.
And logistically and financially, it's probably not ever going to be worth it at that point.
So at some point, obviously, it was worth it. Like historically, in America, we were doing that. Like for instance, there's a scene at the beginning of is it just Gettysburg? What is the movie I'm thinking of where it was? I can't. Maybe it is just called Gettysburg. But the there's the guy, because Jeb Stewart is like out gallivanting, whatever, and so they use this just schmuck guy to kind of be their eyes and ears, and he's like, hey, can I get a cigar as well? Like, it was like, I know you Virginia boys have that good tobacco. And it was like this thing that he was like, hey, I'm working for the Virginians. I got to make sure I get some of their tobacco. So like historically, obviously at some point, America was on it. And then when did that change? Like,
so I can answer that. George Washington said this: if you can't send money, send tobacco. Tobacco was actually a currency for the states. And that's how they would trade, barter, and sell. And then once that currency kind of changed, just like tea was at a point, once the currency actually changed into the gold standard, tobacco as a product to be made was not as desirable. And then you also have the FDA come onto the scene, and they start downplaying the benefits of nicotine and the health risk. And, they put all these other chemicals in our food to try killing us, and they're worried about nicotine. And so you've had a psyop and attack on the nicotine industry for years. And just like we've seen how we've been psyop with vaccines. I don't know where you guys are at on that stuff. I don't really care, but it's more of like, we've been psyop so much to believe that what God has given us is bad. Obviously, there's certain things in cigarettes, there's certain things in vapes, there's certain things that do hurt you, and you should be aware of that. However, like a natural, it's 100% tobacco. The FDA actually says you can smoke 2 to 3 cigars a day, and there's no health risk for you as long as you're not inhaling it. And then there's tons of Harvard studies that you can look up how good nicotine is for you. Yeah,
and there's also one thing that really aggravates me a lot is anytime you walk up to a gas station, right? They've got big plastered signs on the front, we've got cigarette prices, and then half of the ad space is taken up by a big block that just says nicotine is an addictive chemical. That nicotine is an addictive chemical, be aware, do not consume. When they actually test nicotine in a laboratory on mice, they were not able to get mice to become addicted to nicotine by itself. Like, nicotine salts are not adequate to create an addiction. They actually have to be paired with certain chemical chains that are present in manufactured cigarettes, but are not present in cigars. So if those lessons from that are true, what that would mean is, cigars are not necessarily addictive in the same way that cigarettes are, because it doesn't have those added chemicals. I mean, if you look at the list of ingredients on a cigarette, and this is not me saying I'm super anti-cigarettes or I'm pro-cigarettes, this is just the way it is. If you look at the list of ingredients on a cigarette, it is a mile long. Like, not in just in the tobacco, not even in the paper or in the fiberglass filter, which if you heat fiberglass and inhale vapors off of that, that will kill you. And everybody who smokes a cigarette is doing that every time they do. But if you look at the ingredients on a premium hand-rolled cigar, there are 2 ingredients in this cigar, and that is tobacco and gum arabic, which are, gum arabic is food, right? That's in all kinds of food. They put that in birthday cake and icing and all kinds of things to make it sticky, to make it tacky, right? And all that does is it keeps the tobacco rolled together. This is essentially a food grade product, and a cigarette is not. So these are not the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
All right. Well, let's see. Do we have any more questions, Sean, about the process and things like that? Because I want to get into the business side of things.
I don't know what's going on here.
So legally, I think the case is
no. I'm
okay. Tucker Carlson just started playing on my phone.
Yeah. What? He's
We
got
are
something to say.
we are not going to double broadcast Tucker Carlson. Sorry,
Yeah.
but as entertaining as he is, but I wanted to get into the next aspect of this, which is, building a business. We've talked about how you built the cigar, and we kind of touched on when you built the business. You said, you built a website and these kinds of things, but when you build the business, you've got a product, you've got a cigar, and you're like, okay, I know people like these. I know people want these, but, what, when you look at this here, people want to buy it, but how do you get the message to them? How do you tell them, hey, this is a product that you want, buy it from me? How do you get your name out there? How did you do that with your business?
So there's aggressive marketing and there's soft marketing. I do soft marketing. I don't like to be in your face, aggressive about it. I like to tell the story, and I like to let people make that decision to see, all right, is this a good product? I get messages all the time like, hey, I see that you're a boutique cigar company. I really want to try it. Do you guys have some discount codes? And then if you can give me that, I'll buy a box if I like them. And so that's the soft marketing approach. And then that's also, being personable. I get texts from all sides of the aisle. I go to all different conferences. Like I went to Joel's conference. I went to Gabe's conference, and obviously they're having a tit for tat on X right now. I went to Brian's conference, and I went to Jeff Durbin's conference. And so the market, it's like Michael Jordan said that, Republicans buy shoes too. And so it's to be available to everybody in the market. There's a lot of people that are non-Christians that are starting to buy our product. And they always ask, what does a London mean? What does Westminster mean? What does Savoy mean? I see that you have a No King But Christ ban. Are you a religious extremist? And my answer is always yes. And so we have a lot of market pool right now as a small boutique cigar company. And I would say we were one of the fastest growing boutique cigar companies for a while. And we've kind of plateaued out at the beginning of this year, but I do believe that that's Trump's economy. I believe the economy has taken a bath over the last year of his presidency. And he thought tariffs were going to solve a lot of issues. And all they did is just, transpose that to consumers. I'm not anti-tariff, but I think you have to start with one industry first and then move into other industries. So you don't just blanketly tax all the American buyers, especially when I think it's like 87% of the product brought in is through China or other high tariff countries. So everything's going to have an increase. And so when we see this, luxury items such as tobacco, the purchasing of that goes down. And I would say as trajectory looks, though, a lot of cigar companies within the first year fail. And a lot of cigar companies within the first year don't even have a revenue line. They're always in the black. So in God's providence, he's been kind to us. He's allowed us to meet a lot of people, and he's allowed us to go to a lot of places. I got to go to the inauguration because of cigars. We got to do Trump's inauguration cigar. I was there in DC. There's been a lot of growth, just meeting people, knowing people, etc. And I really do like the cigar industry because it's not feminized yet, and Lord willing, it never will be.
So this is not niche right-wing extremist internet type business. This is like the real deal, because we deal with a lot of guys, authors that have all of like 15 fans and are in this little niche kind of thing. Talking about myself, obviously. So this is like the real deal. It's different for us to be actually talking with someone who has a bigger outreach than just our little circle, however big it might actually be. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, our goal at some point is to be in every brick and mortar in the States, which is doable. It's probably 5-10 years out, but it's doable. And people have loved our product. When we get bad reviews on stuff, we shelf it, we revitalize it. We rebuild it from the ground up. Like a cigar that will never run again is short fillers, unless it's just a brick of them and it says short fillers and they're $25 for 25 of them. Because we were kind of coaxed into it by the market because there's, oh, short fillers are moving a lot. They're moving a lot. They are moving a lot, but they're for basically the lower end communities who are using them for blunt wraps. And that's not what I want to be recognized as I don't want to be recognized as a cigar company that is focused on blunt wraps. I want to be premium. I want to be very professional in what I bring to the table. And that has happened. You know, we've sat down with some of the higher end cigar companies. I know them by name now. They know me by name now. I'm a player. I might be in, T-ball and they're in the major leagues, but I'm still a player, and people have noticed that we're still around.
So how often has it come up how do I want to word this? So 1689, like I know what 1689 is. Jeff knows what that is. Like guys in our circles will know what that is. How often does it come up where people are like, where did that number come from? Is it a year? Like, and then that leads into like the Second London Baptist Confession of Faith, or?
Yeah, that happens often, but the cigar industry is very accustomed to numbers. So it dates on their cigars. Like you have the Rocky Patel 1990s, the Rocky Patel 92s, the Rocky Patel, I think 96s, I think is the other one. You have the Opus 2015s, 2012s, 2020s. You have the different years. So a lot of people are accustomed to it. And then we also wanted to like showcase quality of band and showcase the quality of cigars. So 4 caps to 3 caps. What that means is that it's a higher end stick. And then you also can see like there's one main vein. Let's see if I can get it to focus on there through this entire cigar. So whoever's rolling this in the factories is a highly seasoned cigar roller. Probably, I would say they're 5 to 10 years into the industry. You might have a younger person that's just absolute savant. So when somebody sees this, they think high end, they think Davidoff, they think premium. And so dates were never really, people aren't scared of that or they're not confused by that. And we do get a lot of people asking, what does 1689 mean? And then I show them the Baptist Confession. Then they ask, what's what Westminster mean? Then I show them, the Westminster Confession. What does the Savoy mean? Then I show them the declaration of the Savoy Declaration. And then now we have the Heidelberg, we have the Dort, we have the Three Forms of Unity coming out. And so it's just an ode to our past. And most every cigar company has that, an ode to the past. When you look at, I don't know, I think I have a Romeo and Julietta's a box over there of Cubans, and you can see their crest. It's an ode to the past. It's an ode to their families. And so in this sense, I wanted this to be an ode to Christendom on the cigars. And it just points back to, our core focus as Christians.
Any future Lutheran cigar ideas, or is it just strictly Reformed?
So Reformed Cigars just came out with a Luther cigar, and they really want us to start marketing that for them. And I do believe we will start doing that. I am not familiar with the Lutheran tradition as much as I probably should be. I taught in one Lutheran church, and I had to get crest. I don't know what it was. The pastor there, the teacher there, had to do something before I could speak before the church. And so, not used to that tradition. I'm used to Presbyterians. I'm used to Baptists. I'm used to Bapticostals. So you're going to have to help me out with the Lutheran tradition,
So, I mean, you want me to catch you up on 500 years of tradition real quick, or no? I guess the thing you would want to do is somehow tie it to Germany in some respect. Would be, I don't know if there's a tobacco history within Germany.
I don't think so. Maybe snuff. I think snuff might have originated in Germany, but that might be Swiss. So
Jeff doesn't know he's still muted, so I was able to.
Sorry. But yeah, Snuss is that's more of a Nordic thing. But when it comes to Germany, I mean, Germans grow their own tobacco, I don't know if they do today, but I know my great grandfather after World War II, one of the things that he would do for money is he would buy low and sell high on German tobacco. Um, and I wasn't there, so I don't know really what the market was doing, but it had something to do with import export laws, where people were buying up all the tobacco and then making it into cigarettes and then selling it to other European countries, and he would get his hands on some and sell it to local people, and they preferred their own tobacco, whether for nationalist reasons or something else. And so he kind of had a little side hustle. I mean, my great grandfather had a million little side hustles, according to my grandma. But that was one thing he did. So they grew it and they manufactured it, but I don't think it's necessarily the same as what we can do here in the States, or even what they do in South America, because the climate's very different. So one would imagine that product would end up very different.
Yeah, so I just did a quick Google search because I was interested. Obviously, tobacco comes on the scene when the Europeans go down to the East Indies, and then they colonize it, and then they learn about tobacco, and then they start producing it. It's about 1500s is when it starts really moving. And so it says that Germany has a rich history for pipe tobacco. How'd you say it? I call it snuff. You said, how'd you call it?
Snus, which is snus is not the same thing as snuff. And I'm not a pro on this, but essentially snus is, zins. That's, zin pouches, which, maybe this is a good segue into another product that you have, which is Dort. You have this very similar to this, not quite the same thing as Zins, but is that on your 1689 website, or is it its own thing?
Yeah, Dort.us.
Okay, Dort.us, and I'm gonna pull that up real quick. But let's pop over to here. So essentially, snuff is a different product than snus. Snuff is just,
you snort it like cocaine.
Yeah, you get, it's real fine chopped. They would put it on their hand, and then they would snort it up their nose. They would sneeze, and there's a very fun passage in Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson, where he meets a minister who's walking along in the Highlands of Scotland, and the guy has a very bad habit of this stuff, and just very humorous. But the Nords took the idea of that, and they started putting it into pouches, and that way you don't have to spit. You can put it in, you can take it out, and it's all kind of contained. And eventually that became snus, which was where they refined it, and they just used the nicotine salts, and they would put it into a little pouch, put it, and I can demonstrate essentially what they would do is they would take a pouch and put it along their gum line, and that would be how they would consume their nicotine. And it was cleaner. You didn't have to spit. You didn't have, it wasn't causing problems in the nose cavity, because raw tobacco up in your nose cavity can cause some problems. It can irritate the skin, especially on those tender areas. And so essentially that is where pouches came from. They were invented by, I believe it was the Swedes who first came up with it, Swedish snus. But you now have this product here, which is Dort.us, Dort.store also comes there. And you've got 3 milligrams, and these are nicotine pouches. So tell us about how you got into these. This was, you've been doing this only for about a year, right?
Yeah, so we started this about a year ago. Well, this project's about 2.5 years old. So about a year and a half of planning, sourcing and trying to find the cleanest product as possible. So I don't have the ingredients right in front of me. There's certain things that we won't say in the ingredients because we don't want people to steal the formula. But it's as clean as it gets. The only thing synthetic in the nicotine pouches is the nicotine itself, because natural nicotine just spoils too fast. It wouldn't be able to sit on the shelf. It would have been a nightmare. We learned that the hard way. And so we have 3, 7, 13, and 19. We have 9s that just haven't hit the market yet. And
am I misunderstanding 19 milligram pouches? Like, because like there'll be people in the group chat that are like, oh man, I can't do the 6s. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. I just got to do the 3s. Like 19 is like what I feel like a lot of guys, by the way they talk, would do in a day.
Yeah.
Like
so we have a guy named Kiefer, and that dude pops 19s all day long. I don't know. An average person can OD on nicotine for 75 milligrams. So
really?
that man is nicotine resistant. I can pop a 3 and I'm throwing up. So I prefer to smoke my nicotine, not have to sit on my gums. So Dort, it comes from the cannons of Dort. That's what we did. Hits like a cannon. It 100% hits like a cannon. Yeah. So
19. Holy cow. I'm getting a lot of echo.
Yeah, Chance, anytime we start talking, it really echoes. I don't know if it's your headset or your mic, but something is coming through, feedback. And but yeah, notice that it's a 2-end cannon, not a 1-end cannon. It hits like a cannon. So a little bit of a pun there. But yeah, I mean, I have not tried the Dorts. I'm gonna definitely throw those in a shopping cart and give those a test, because I am a nicotine pouch appreciator, just because it's not messy. It's very clean, and I like being clean. When I'm in my work truck, I don't like, I've always been grossed out by spit bottles. I grew up around rednecks, and I've lived with them all my life. And when there's a spit bottle, or even worse, a can going around, it's just, that is nasty. So I like having the clean. What's that?
I said I drank one of those cans before and threw up everywhere. It was horrible.
Yeah, that's the worst. I don't want to be around it. I don't want to risk it. So I like this product, and I know it's a little more excuse me, a little more synthetic, but it's still well within, this is food grade stuff. It's not going to and this is not FDA approved statement, but I mean, this is not going to kill you. All right. These kinds of products are very clean. Brush your teeth, wash yourself, like your doctor tells you, brush your teeth, wash yourself, and you'll be fine. These things are not going to, they're not going to rot your teeth out if you take care of yourself. Raw tobacco on gums, in the nasal passages, it's a lot worse for you than these products are.
And Dort is not made in India. One of your guys just commented that on YouTube.
Yeah, that is one thing that we did want to ask is, if you're okay with sharing, where, you did mention where a lot of your tobacco comes from, but most tobacco guys who are putting this together, their stuff comes from South America. There's FDA reasons for why that is, but where are Dorts made? Is that something that you share, or is that something you kind of want to sit on?
It doesn't bother me. So all the raw material is sourced from China, and then it's produced in Brazil. There's no way to get around to the price point by which we can bring it to the market and compete with Zen. If we were going to do stateside, you're going to be paying, $10 to $11 a can for a 3 milligram. That's just not doable. We don't have a market like that. We're not Zen. We're not a massive company that can just throw $3 billion in marketing each year. And if there's anybody in this is what I always say, because people are, oh no, it's sourced here, it's coming from communist country, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a capitalist. It's free market. But if anybody wants to do this stateside, every bit of our product, if you can make it cheap for us to, not cheap in the sense of like cheap product, but if you can make it to where we can bring it to the consumers at a reasonable price, we will go with you all day, every day. And nobody has come to me. Nobody sent me an email. Nobody's given me a call. So I don't think it's obtainable in America. I have talked with the Knick-Knack guys. And
that's one thing that I did want to talk about is Knick-Knack is made in America, but like pretty much every other product other than Zyn, which as far as I'm aware, Zyns are made in the US, but they're also kind of cagey about it. I mean, they might be
sourced from China as well.
Yeah,
the best synthetic nicotine in the world comes from China.
Yeah. I mean, they're mass producing it. And the thing is, Knick-Knack, they make their product in America, but when you look at what this is, it's a tablet, right? It's not a pouch, it's a tablet. And that when they say, made in America, that doesn't necessarily mean that their nicotine is made in America. It means that the tablet is made in America. So, I mean, not trying to throw shade at Knick-Knack. For all I know, it is an American nicotine product, but it's probably sourced from the same place, either, India or China, something like that. I mean, from what I understand, they're in Washington State and China. That's a direct highway. If I were them, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be pulling nicotine from China and manufacturing these in my backyard. But, good stuff. I like them. But you've got to work with what you've got to build with the bricks you've got.
We've got some kind of, it's some goofy questions. We'll go ahead and show this one. Yellow Moth, regular of the show. Do you know who stole the truckload of Alp? Follow-up question. Was it you?
No, it wasn't. We actually had a truckload of Dort go missing at the same time Alp went missing.
Oh no.
So, and that's what the delay was. Yeah. So I think we were supposed to launch in August and we ended up launching in November, which we had a couple thousand pre-orders that we had to refund, which really stunk. And it really put some water on that fire because the Dort I just kept on getting updated by our shipping company. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there next week. It'll be there next week. And then finally they had to remanufacture it, resend it out. And then it just takes some time to get into the States.
And was that insured at all, or did you bite the bullet?
On that one, the liability falls on the manufacturer. If it got to my door and it was dropped off and then it was stolen, then it would lie on me. So, but we do have insurance for that.
Interesting. So what happened to Tucker Carlson, is that something that happens fairly frequently? Like, is this something that's going on?
If it's coming through the Mexican shipping, yes. If it's coming through Canada, no. Typically, you're going to be coming through Mexico because Canada's tobacco import taxes are insane. Then bringing them across the border, all the clearance, like Canada's a nightmare for tobacco. So I'm pretty sure Tucker uses the same routes that we use for shipping. And I would say it's the cartel that's doing this.
Interesting. But one would assume that all of those customs and that higher security probably also does make it safer for shipping, even if it's more expensive. It's just kind of a side effect of all of those cops hovering around your product all the time. So,
yeah, I don't know what Canada's tobacco tax is, but I think let me look real quick.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Alp, that's Tucker Carlson's product, and it is made in India and then shipped here. So we don't know if it was grabbed in Mexico. Probably somebody who's read more into it would be aware. But it's shipped over here from India, made in India, and he gets a lot of crap for that. Yellow Moth was asking, is Dort made in India? The reason he had that question is because there are a lot of pouches that are made in India, including Tucker Carlson's Alp pouches, which, are perfectly pleasant. I've tried them. I didn't get, nicotine poisoning or any kind of weird diseases that I know of, from Alp pouches. But so it evidently these things get nabbed every once in a while. Evidently, that's a thing.
Yeah, your cigars get nabbed too, which thank goodness we haven't had to deal with that. But it's typically a direct route from Nicaragua to Miami. But the other thing too about this industry, it's a pretty dark industry because there's a lot of money laundering that goes through the nicotine industry. Like if you see those vape shops on every corner of every town that you live in, it's typically because they're in some kind of illicit business and they have to clean their money, and it's typically through their vape shops. And so, if they're illegals, get them shut down.
Yeah, hair salons too. If you ever notice you're in the wrong side of town and there's just like a nail salon every other block, it's not just because, old black ladies love to do hair, which is a real thing. I mean, their hair does take more maintenance than this here. This is very low maintenance, and I thank God for it. But it's also a lot of these places are fronts. When you see massage parlors, when you see nail shops, hair salons, if there's an unusually large number of them, laundromats. That's the more Caucasian form of money laundering. But that's, if you're seeing 3 laundromats within spitting distance of each other, there's money laundering going on. And that's unfortunately very, very common. All right. Well, let's see. I threw some stuff into the For Future Generations fan club, which if y'all are not following on Facebook, give it a follow. And this, I posted 2 things. One of them was I asked a question to the audience, and I haven't got a lot of takers yet, but I'm sure more people will spill in. But I just asked the question, you're a young man starting your own business. What are some questions you would ask a successful entrepreneur? And Joseph Bartlett, friend of the show, he commented in here. He said, how do you write your first business plan? And for a startup, how far along do you have to be with an initial product or business plan before you seek funding? So, Chance, I want to throw that over to you. If you are giving advice to a young man, how would you go about writing your business plan? How did you write your business plan? And then how far along did you have to be with your initial product before you sought funding? Did you seek funding? What was that process like for you?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I didn't seek any funding. We never went into debt. We'd make money, we'd purchase, make money, purchase, make money, purchase. And that's how we built. Then going a little bit further on, I was reached out to by a couple other guys who were investors. They wanted to jump in, and then they did. But me I come from the nonprofit world. I ran a boys' home for 5 years. We turned it into $1 million nonprofit, and it did very well for itself. Even on the exiting, they were able to start a homeless shelter. They bought a boys and girls club and turned it into just kind of like a family ministering center, which I'm not involved in any of that. But so I come from that world, and people typically can shake your hand and they're honest. But in the business world, even the Christians, I think Christians actually do business worse. They'll shake your hand, they'll invest in your business, and they'll say they have all of these leads. They'll say they have all these contacts. And then, 6 months down the road, you're putting in 80 hours a week and that person's putting in 2. And, that's not what was agreed upon. So the biggest thing is the people that you're going into business with. One, I would say, unless they're a large capital investment firm that doesn't care about getting their money back for 10 years, invest with somebody who's local. invest with somebody who is probably in your congregation where your pastors can hold them accountable if there's any bad decisions that go on or there's something that needs to be remedied. And then thirdly, invest with somebody who is willing to understand risk and risk management. Because sometimes you have to just throw everything against the wall and say, like, we're going for this. And if we fail miserably, but we at least tried. And other times you have to have the guy in the room says, this is a stupid risk. Don't take it. And so you need a balance. You need somebody who's risk averse, and you need somebody who can say, all right, these risks are too damaging for the company right now. We need to slow down, chill out, and then move on. And so you need a good balanced team. If you can do it on your own without any capital investment, I would say never take investment, because that's how your companies get co-opted. That's how your companies get taken. Long story short, at the beginning of 2025, we had somebody in Trump's cabinet reach out to us, and they were going to give us $1.5 million for like 20% of our company. And so we jumped on it, and we're like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And it ended being one of the worst decisions I ever made. I got to go to the inauguration. I got to make Trump's inauguration cigar. I got to do all these cool things, but it ended up costing me about $180,000. And that deal fell through. I didn't have as good as lawyers as the guy in Trump's cabinet did. And he ate my lunch. And so, I'm very leery to take on any capital funding unless I really know them. They agree with me politically. They agree with me when sometimes you just have to say the thing that needs to be said. And then also that they are more local than further away. Distance make bad partnership unless it's like a tech company or something that's not luxury sales like Cigars is.
So you said it was someone in Trump's cabinet, but was it someone in Trump's cabinet from India? That's the real question.
No, it wasn't. But it was somebody's in Trump's cabinet that. Do you remember when Elon Musk stopped that funding to pastors? It was like $9 billion that went to pastors. He was getting funded like $15 million a year, and so he was just taking that funds. And obviously, I'm not going to give you his name. I'm not going to discuss that. He was taking that funds and he was investing it into companies through his nonprofit. You can invest in for-profits. It's a legal way to do it. And it's still a write-off by investing into that company. And then that company can give you dividends back to your nonprofit, and therefore you profit. So I didn't know any of this. I was wet behind the ears, and worst decision I ever made.
Boy, that's enough to make you just want to flip the tables and start the game over again, man. Like when I hear stuff like that, I'm just ready to burn it all down.
Time to start braiding a whip.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah. So on the Facebook side, I also had this question that I threw out there, and it was kind of coming at it from the other direction. And I said, let's say you're a successful businessman. You've been at it for 10 years or more. What is some good advice you wish you had starting out? And what is some bad advice you wish you hadn't listened to? And Ethan Holden, who we've had on the show a couple times, he dropped a comment in there. But before I get to his, I want to ask this to you, Chance. You are a successful businessman, and you've been doing this for a while. I don't know if it's been 10 years or more, but it's been a while. What is some good advice that you wish you had when you were starting out?
I think the best advice that I can give somebody is if you are succeeding, don't pick up the phone all the time. Like, and this isn't like a pat myself on the back. I probably get 30, 40 texts a day and probably 10 phone calls. And they're people that are wanting to start businesses. They're people who are wanting to do things. And it's people who are wanting to give me advice. And I don't have time to spend that time with them. Maybe in the future when I'm sitting back and I'm just watching the cogs go together. But there's a lot of noise, and you have to stay laser focused on your industry. We actually, obviously, we have the Armory company, we have the Distillery company, and we have the coffee company. In our last board meeting, we just said, hey, we're going to go laser focus back on nicotine because that's where we've seen the most success. And so we're we're moving that focus back to the nicotine, because ultimately all those other companies came together because of the investment we were supposed to get in 2025. And so we were moving at light speed, thinking we were going to have 7 figures sitting in the bank and start rolling out ads, start buying influencers basically for the Armor, start doing all these things that we were going to do, but it kicked us in the butt. We counted our eggs before they hatched. And so there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people who overpromise and underdeliver. There's people who say they can do stuff for you. We paid a rep up in northern Indiana and Chicago area, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I work with 150 lounges. A Christian guy, I know him, and he told me he has all these connections, blah blah blah." So this is, again, being new to this. I trusted him, took him on, and I paid him thousands of dollars, and he never made one return on that investment. And so when you're working with people, it's not Christian charity to pay somebody that's not bringing monetary gain to your business. So you have to learn to cut off the loose ends, not listen to all the noise. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's like, I get messages from people all the time talking about how I'm going to fail, and I just like give them a thumbs up and say, at least I'm doing something, buddy, And so you don't listen to all the noise. If your phone starts blowing up, obviously you're having some sort of success, and you got to set those boundaries, because it's impossible to get to all those contacts. And then you have a group of like 5 to 10 guys that are highly successful. And then you jump into the think tank. You talk about how am I marketing? So we just did this a couple weeks ago. The number one place for boutique cigar brands to grow right now is Reddit, in the cigar forums. And I found this out because I was just doing marketing, just looking, fishing, trying to find stuff. I posted a couple of posts in the forums. I'm getting like 20, 30,000 views per post now. And I think Friday I did one about 1689 cigars, and we had a couple $1,000 day, just off of Reddit, not off of email, not off campaigns. We can see when leads come in, what source they click through, or how they get there. And so it's having people who know what they're doing, having people in the same industry, and the same industry can be e-commerce, because e-commerce can be all across the platform. So like the lapel pins at the beginning, he's successful because he's targeted his audience on X, and they have built basically a cult following for lapel pins. And then you see the growth here. And so he's laser focused on his audience, and that's great. That's what you need to do. Or Squirrely Joe's Coffee, it's on every Reformed podcast. And so they know their audience, they're staying laser focused. And so that's probably the best advice I would say, is like, there's a lot of noise, don't listen to it. And if you're successful, people start blowing you up, you're going to have to put your phone on mute for most of the time.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into this comment that Ethan left us, and, chime in as I'm reading this out with your take on these points. But he says, build systems and practices as quickly as possible. Until you do this, you have a job and not a business. Sorry, I'm coughing my head off. I've got a little bit of a cold that I'm getting over. But yeah, he's talking about, not necessarily automation, but automation is a part of this. But build a system that kind of processes things. And part of your system that you've described is, not listening to the phone calls, but having a website, having a digital interface that people can, they can get on there, they can make their orders, getting that as streamlined as possible. And if you're a plumber, if you're a carpenter, that would look like, getting a secretary, whether that's a person, whether that's digital, having some system that kind of takes care of the overhead and the scheduling and all of these things. Build a system and practice as quickly as possible. What have you done in your business that works that way for you?
Yeah. So when we were first building out the platform, what I did is I took pages like Cigar Pages, Cigar Bids, Cigar International, Atlanta, Cigars, all the big players, and grabbed them, looked at them, looked at their coding, looked at their design. And I saw that a major thing in the cigar industry is capturing emails, capturing phone numbers. And so if you have your customers, so we have like 800,000 emails on our email list. We don't send out to 800,000 people every time because it's not good marketing. So you have a targeted marketing campaign on that. And so you're building out that system. So targeted marketing is somebody who has purchased before, somebody who has visited the website over 5 times that shows interest. And then secondly, somebody who has added something to their cart that shows that they were going to purchase, but something changed their mind, whether it was shipping, whether they wanted a discount, or, their baby started crying and they had to go help their wife out, kind of that. And so you build out the system. And once your system's in place, then you basically press play, you go, you build, and then that system works for itself. You're working yourself out of a job in that sense. And then you move into, how can I advertise? How can I be entrepreneurial? How can I go out and take the money that I'm making, advance my business, pay my bills, pay my employees, and then go forward? And so now you're building, once you've built your tech system, your website, your marketing, your online groups. I mean, you see with 1689 Cigar Group and things like that, you have a culture you're building. And once that system's in place, now you're looking to close sales. So the best thing about sales is closing the sale. It doesn't matter really how you get there unless it's illegal or sinful. You shouldn't do those things, but you're closing sales, and then you're moving into closing sales. Now you're like, all right, I have revenue, I have capital. Where am I going to reinvest this? What's the best return on my investment? Is it Reform Cigars? Is it 1689 Cigars? Is it the Unity line? Is it the no banders? And so now you're looking at percentages of what's coming in. So you buy accordingly, and then you set aside, obviously, your payouts to your business partners, to your employees, et cetera. And so building out that system, Ethan's 100% right. You have to have a system that works, and then you maintain that system. You keep that system. If it's not broken, you don't have to fix it.
All right. And then the next point that he makes is, he says, when you start out, you will likely fulfill the role of technician, doing the work, manager, managing the business, and entrepreneur, figuring out where the business is going. You must move to strictly entrepreneurial duties as soon as possible, or else you will never grow the business. What's your take on that one?
I agree 100%. You have to manage, you have to do those things. But then once you get people who can fill those roles, now you're moving in as basically the figure piece.
Yeah, you want to operate as the CEO as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you've kind of touched on this one already, but he says, talk to other people who are successful and don't take advice from people who are not as successful as you, right? So don't be listening to the naysayers, people who come along, they're like, hey, your business will never succeed, or you really ought to do this, that, and the other. Look at what they're doing. If they don't have a successful business, don't necessarily take advice from them. We've talked about this, Sean and I, before, where it's like, don't take marriage advice from people who are on their third wife, right? Unless it's, don't do what I did. If it's negative advice, here's what not to do. That's different than, positive advice.
Yeah.
When I was betrothed to my wife before we were married, there was an older gentleman, and I like him. I do think he's a Christian. I believe he's passed now because he was very old at the time. That would have been 10 years ago. But he told me, you always test drive a car, right? So you gotta see how she's like before you want to marry her. And he was referring to premarital intercourse. And I was just very upfront with him. Look, that is not appropriate. That is not Christian. That is bad advice. And this is an old man, a boomer, who was on his third or fourth wife. And it's things like that. You got here because of the bad advice that you gave yourself. And I'm not inclined to take that bad advice.
Was this the woman at the well who gave you this advice?
This was the first thing. Yeah, this was an.
That was
old
just the first thing I
that
thought
went
of when
to
you were
different
telling that
church.
story.
Yeah,
where he's just like, oh, you gotta sleep with all of them first. It's like, dude, you have had 3 wives, and the wife that you have now is not your wife.
Right.
You're just all over the place.
Yeah. But his next point is, he says, there will be things that worry you and stress you out. Put them in perspective. Just know that 99% of your problems will be resolved or go away. I hate the way these notifications pop up. He says, 99% of your problems will be resolved and almost resolved in 2 to 3 weeks. Don't sacrifice sleep over them. Chance, when you were starting out your business, is this something that you ran into a lot?
Yeah, I had a lot less problems when we first started out. It was about 1.5 years into it when we started getting traction, building capital, things like that. And then my problems came. But he's correct. You shouldn't sacrifice your sleep. And he's definitely correct. They usually resolve within 2 or 3 weeks, unless it's a major issue that you have to deal with, like funding issue or letting somebody go, etc. And so I've gotten to the point to where there can be a fire brewing, like an absolute monster of a storm, and I can sleep pretty well at night knowing that it's usually resolved within, for us, it's usually a week and it's done.
And then this next point, he says, whatever you fear, that is what controls you. If you're afraid of conflict, court cases, permits, hard work, or anything else, you will naturally build your business to avoid those things, and your business will suffer. You really do have to be fearless.
Yeah, you have to just walk tall and carry a big stick, especially when you're dealing in the nicotine industry. There are so many rules and regulations that make no sense. And when you talk to a lawyer, they're like, yeah, we don't know. Just do it. And if you get in trouble, we're here, and that's 100% true. I don't know I don't know what Ethan does, but looks like properties, real estate investment is what I'm guessing. And so, yeah, I mean, you just have to be fearless. You also have to go in and ask questions. And sometimes you look really dumb asking like the simple question, but then it's like, okay, now I know I have to have this, or now I know I need a retail license here and I need a wholesale license here, or I need this there. Well, I've been doing this, but I don't have that license yet. I'm not going to quit doing it. I'm just going to get the license, and so there's a lot of learning curve, especially when you talk to different lawyers and they tell you 10 different things. And so you just go forth and do, that's the main thing. Is like, if you're not doing anything and you're just crippled by fear, it's an effeminate quality that needs to be sanctified out of you.
Amen to that. Amen. All right. He says, for bad advice, don't listen to people saying that you can't start a partnership with friends or family. It can be done if you have great friends or family, but you do have to quickly define the roles and responsibilities, and then revisit that conversation every year for the first several years, because there will be areas you never thought to address. And you kind of talked about this a little bit with some of the partnerships that you've gone into that have burned you, and how they haven't worked out. Talking about defining the roles and responsibilities, what are some ways that people can do that in their own business?
So we structure it this way. We have 3 meetings a week. First meeting's marketing, second meeting strategy, that's Wednesdays, and then Friday meetings is basically how did we do, who accomplished their goals, and who didn't, right? And so that structuring and then keeping people accountable, that's the biggest thing. Like if a guy says he's going to do something and he's, I'll get it done next week, and you get on a phone call and you have we keep detailed notes on everything. So if I say, hey, I'm going to do this next week, and then I get on the call, I get reprimanded for it, even though I'm the CEO. Like I said I was going to do it, but I didn't do it. And so having good communication is the only way your business will make it. And the defining roles. So like if I'm just out in la land and I don't have a role, then, what am I useful for the business? I'm not doing anything for it. I'm not making the business money. I'm just there as a person sitting on the board. And so he's 100% right. You got to define the roles. You got to enter into those categories. You got to do all those things. And you need to hold, we only would bring men onto our boards or into our businesses and you need to hold one another accountable. And if you know, hey, I'm going to get on this, but I forgot to reply to that email, or I forgot to ship that out, this guy's going to say something to me on Monday. It really does improve the quality of life, the quality of business.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, let's see. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. We had a little bit of Twitter drama that we wanted to touch on as well. Do we want to roll into that, Sean, and pull that up?
I had I guess a couple of things I did want to on this topic.
All right, let's hit that first.
First of all, Chance, do you ever come through the Fort Worth area?
Yeah, we do. We actually were going to plan to do an event down there sometime soon. We just have been so busy with moving some of the armor stuff around. So if you guys ever want to do an event, I definitely would be there.
So I know some guys. Drew Davis is one of them. He's been on the show before. He's a big cigar guy, and basically a group of guys. I'm not like one of the guys that organize it, but I have shown up in the past. They basically go to this local cigar lounge and sing hymns, and it's just like a very Christian brotherhood type thing. It's pretty cool. That would be something that, I mean, they'd love to have you. I was just curious if you ever know anything about that. A lot of them are like CREC guys. Like I know Drew is a CREC guy.
Yeah, I'm actually very familiar with that. Kyle Hessler was telling me about that a while back.
Yeah. Okay. So so you know all about it then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I just want to make sure that you were in that particular, because those are just a bunch of guys that I know. And I just got an echo. Like I was texting Drew. I was like, dude, you got to listen to this episode because this dude's talking about like everything that you love. I guess another question. It's funny because I'm going to ask this because you just basically told me not to ask questions like this. But so obviously, like I'm writing books, writing novels. Back this shoulder. What would be something you would think that I could do to get that kind of outreach? Like recently, I just got back on Twitter. I had to step away for some personal reasons, but just got back on, and man, like it's getting that outreach is like really tough. Like I really just don't. I feel like I have my niche. Like I know who like my people are, but then sometimes it feels like it's all of like 10 people.
Yeah, I would say just because of our sphere, I would say our niche is probably not going to support our families. So you have to look at other avenues. So what kind of writings do you do? Fictional works?
Yeah, it's fiction. I've just got the 2 right now. I'm working through a draft of a 3rd one.
Yeah, so tell me the story. Like, what's the core characters and
so this
what's
one,
kind of
this one. So this is Thello. That's the first. So this is parts 1 and 2 of a series. The first one is essentially. I'll just go ahead and get it. We had our.
Oh, is it manga?
Oh my goodness. No, that's funny you say that though, because our boy Noah made the cover art for this one. Which I really love the perspective on it. Like I basically like told him what I wanted. He did it pretty perfect, but yeah, this one is it's about a guy named James Erickson who is given a ring that allows him to go back in time, but it's basically he can travel through timelines. So it's not like he can go back to the 1860s and save Stonewall Jackson. Like it's within his own lifetime, so he can go back to when he was 10 and then like live his life from that point forward. And then the second one is a continuation of that. It's hard to explain that one without kind of giving stuff away, but
yeah,
obviously he's like flying about in this one. And then the third one, the book that I'm working on right now with a publisher, is a Robin Hood story.
Okay.
So it's essentially, it is in the Howard Pyle kind of line of Robin Hood stories where you're taking from the original ballads. You're not just like making stuff up. You're going from the, like, this is the way that this story has always been told. And then, you know, you put your own little twist on things. With that one, I'm going with the version of Robin Hood where he is coming home from the Third Crusade.
Okay.
And so Richard the Lionheart is the king who comes back. It's that version of Robin Hood. And with that one, I think what really inspired me was the, like when I came back from Afghanistan, I came home and I was just like, man, home sucks now. Like I left during the Obama years, and I came back and everything was just like on fire. I was like, what happened while I was gone? Like this whole, like my city had fallen apart. It was a mess. So I guess that's kind of what I use that experience in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're passionate about your writing and you want to build a clientele, it's finding the avenues by which you can market. So I just saw that you had DBZ characters back there. I have Vegeta floating around here somewhere. My daughter's probably ripped his head off a couple times. So I really like that style. I really like anime. I watch anime even though people poo-poo on it all the time. I think it actually has the most Christ-centric storytelling right now because all the other stuff that we have is just garbage. They just wanted to make it gay. And so I'm serious.
The Japanese don't put up with that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a subculture there that they have to deal with. But if you were to take, you know, the things that impacted you the most, take your writings, write them. We do when I ran the boys' home, we did like fictional tales about a child with a bow and a child with a sword. There were two young men that were there that were teaching, and so I would tell them stories every night. I would just make them up, you know, of heroism, of victory, of suffering, of failure, of all that stuff. And they always said, "Hey, you should write this into a book." I never will because it's just not my niche. But I think you, like Bluey, you know the cartoon Bluey.
Oh yeah.
You know the background of that? That's like a mom and pop operation.
I never heard that before. No.
Yeah, so they just took like their family life and they started just scripting it and writing it in. And so, a tornado.
Are we all about to get I thought it was gonna be like an Amber Alert thing.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chase is under a tornado warning and he's got severe weather. So if he suddenly drops, that is because of the weather just took him out. So if he disappears, folks, that's what's going on. Oh, we saw the lights blink. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably going to have to go because it just touched down. I just got a whole bunch of people texting me. So.
Whoa.
All right. Well, Chance, we really appreciate you being here for as long as you were. And it's been a fun time. But we'll close out and we'll probably touch some of this Twitter stuff, just Sean and me. And then for those of you who are supporters on the Buy Me a Coffee page, we do have an after show for the father supporters. But Chance, it's been an absolute joy to have you on. I mean,
thank you.
I really enjoy cigars. I like nicotine pouches. I'm into guns and body armor and stuff. I mean, if you know, Chance was saying earlier, his wife wanted him to get a masculine hobby, and he went all out. I mean, look at this plate carrier he's got. I mean, he really does have a lot of cool stuff.
All right, it's getting crazy outside. I got to jump off here, guys.
All right, okay. Chance, appreciate it. You have a wonderful night, man. Take care.
Yep.
And
I'm gonna go ahead and plug real quick. Oh, were you about to say what his Twitter handle is?
His links are in the description to the show. Give him a follow on Twitter and on Facebook and all that.
Oh, dang! Now that he's off, I've got something else I wanted to bring up. So his Twitter handle, or at least the 1689 one, is 1689 Cigars Co. And then 1689cigars.com is the website. I bring that up because I was not following before this. Like this is my first time really getting to know him. So also I see that out of Kentucky, we need to get a John C. Breckenridge cigar. If we're gonna do the Kentucky thing, dude, like I need to hit him up on that. I'll have to
for sure.
I'll have to tag him in a tweet after all this. But speaking of Twitter, let's talk about some stuff our friend Ethan started.
Yeah. Speaking of Ethan, I mean, we've already been looking at some of his stuff that he posted, but we will. Let's see. I gotta close this out. I just added another link for y'all to follow in the description. But yeah, we've got this tweet from the Jolly Brawler, which for those of you who don't know, the Jolly Brawler is Ethan Holden, and he posted this, and it's a comment underneath a previous post where he says, "Is there a group outside of clergy, academicians, and lefty journalists who plan to write a book that considers extended sabbaticals to be a normal thing?" And then this here is him kind of prepondering on that a little bit. He says, "If pastors need scheduled sabbaticals, I'm not convinced he is in the right line of work, especially given that the men in his congregation likely work much more physically and often mentally demanding jobs than the pastorate and would be laughed out of the factory for asking about a sabbatical. I also know that many elder boards force sabbaticals as a way to care for their pastor. This practice should be stopped. Clergy can work like men, or they can find a new job more fitted to their strength and energy levels." Real quick, before we proceed, actually, this is a comment from Yellow Moth. He says, "What a good time to pray for him," by the way, talking about Chance with the cigar touching, or the cigar, with the tornado touching down right where he is. So, yeah, let's pause just for a minute and pray for him real quick. Lord, if you would be with Chance, our brother, as the tornadoes touching down in Tennessee, be with his community and his people. Please keep them safe. Lord, protect them and bless him in his efforts and his business that he's running for your glory. Help us to be good brothers to him and keep his family safe in this time. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. All right. So with that said, let's get back to the tweet here. Yeah, sabbaticals, they seem to be fairly common. And I know there's a lot of mixed feelings. I mean, it's almost like he touched a sacred cow here. But Sean, did you have some commentary you wanted to throw before we get into a lot of the subtweets and the comments?
Oh boy, I think the subtweets will lead to everything that I need to say.
Okay, all right. Well,
because I could basically just go through my own feed, and I mean, I've really poured my heart out on this one because it's something that is very near and dear to me, and I'll get into why that is as we go.
Yeah. So, well, this is the first one that I saw that really that I noticed, and this is Jason Kovacs, which I don't know this guy. He's a husband, father, counselor, church consultant. So, if you need some church consolation, this is the guy to look up. But I mean, for all I know, he's a good guy, but I do not know him. But he says the average length of time a seminary-trained pastor lasts in ministry is 5 years. The average length of time churches require you to work before taking a sabbatical is 7 years. On average, pastors burn out 2 years before they could qualify for well-needed rest. And Sean, what's your take on this?
Well, boy, how do I want to say this? It's so much, it's putting yourself on a pedestal. I'm trying to think how to word that. It's such a
it's very me-centered, right? It's very kind of, the world revolves around me kind of thought.
Yeah, it is. It's self-aggrandizing. It's making much of yourself. This, as a pastor, let me tell you how hard my life is. And you'll see that as a theme as we go through all these different posts and comments people have made. the average length of time churches require you to work before taking a sabbatical is 7 years. Yeah, the average length of time that everyone else has to work before taking a sabbatical is
their whole life.
The age of 65 when you can start taking Social Security. That's what I don't know if that's the actual. I was talking about it later tonight but it's so crazy to me. A seminary trained pastor, last ministry is 5 years. Well, the system is really the issue. I don't know if you have, what's the Ogden guy's name? I'm trying to think about. He had a good take on this, where he was talking about his, the Ogden guy who's got the Civil War AI for his profile picture.
That would be Eric Kahn. And
yes, thank you, Eric.
I do not have that tweet pulled up, but I can find it real quick.
Yeah, if you want to look into that. He had a whole thing where, sorry, guys, I'm awful with now. I know Yellow Moth is helping us out. I appreciate that. Let me see if I could scroll through my feed and find when I started talking about this. Hey, it looks like that Kofi guy deleted his thing unless I am blocked.
You might be blocked because I have it pulled up. But,
okay. That makes sense because I called him out. What am I don't know how far back this started. What was the Ethan tweet? When did that, or when did March 10th? Okay. Boy, this all happened so fast. I was sitting there in the hospital watching all this go down because my wife was in labor for like 24 hours. She was just sitting there chilling because she had the thing in her back that allows her to chill. So she's just sitting there having contractions, playing on her phone. And I'm like, well, I'm going to see what all these knuckleheads are up to. I think this is where I started. Okay. If you would like, I can share my screen and just go through all of my.
Sure. Let me remove this and I'll let you throw yours up there because I'm not finding it. I did not have this one pulled up.
Okay, that's fine. How do I? Oh boy, me doing my technology. Okay, I think this is it.
Oh, I found it.
Am I up there? Here we go. Okay. I made this myself. I'm so proud of that. Pennsylvania. Ted. So this was I had shared Ethan's take, and I said, if you're too weak for the pastorate, step down. It's time for the next man up. Laymen babying pastors is what put denominations like the LCMS in the state it's in. Now, the LCMS is not the only one. I would say the LCMS is not the worst one, but I'm going to point at my own house before I point at other people. But it's something that's true of most denominations these days, that, the evangelical ones, the ones who were, they stayed conservative in comparison to the mainline denominations. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit too. Let's see. What else was I talking about? Statistics enthusiasm. Hey, my baby boy. Let's see where we go. Reposting Ethan again. I believe that pastors should stop being weaker than the men who have grueling and heavy jobs in their congregations. That was a big part of this. Was you had guys like you and me. I know our buddy Connell was huge on this over the week. Just saying, like, here's my work schedule. Here's what I do for a living. I don't take sabbaticals. What are you doing is so much harder than this. And it was just a whole bunch of, you don't understand. It's so hard. I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. it was more is self-aggrandizing behavior.
Mm-hmm. And
Ethan.
yeah, I have that Eric Kahn tweet if you'd like to.
Oh,
I can
pull it up.
that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Go for
So this here is the Eric Kahn tweet. First off, this is the Connell one that you referred
Yeah,
to.
there you go.
Where he says,
Yeah.
I work 5/10s in a blue collar industry, breaking my back, and I don't get a sabbatical. Yeah. And, just to one-upmanship, I said 5/11s and same. I work 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I don't get a sabbatical. I get an unpaid vacation if I ask for it, that at most is a week and a half or 2 weeks long. But they're going to be missing me the entire time I'm gone. I don't get that opportunity like these people do. Skippy Petroleum says wannabe clergy should spend 7 years on a rig floor before they can apply to study for an MDiv. That would winnow the field quite a bit. But this is Eric Kahn's tweet that we were referring to earlier. He says 2 thoughts. First, the entire system for recruitment of pastors to their seminary training to hire is broken. And this is that systematic problem that you were talking about. Many young pastors enter horrendous church situations that are meat grinders, especially for young families. Many quit because they are thrown into impossible situations. Yeah, I mean, young pastors, they don't get the pick of the field, right? They end up getting whatever they can get, which is usually a bad situation, right?
Yep.
And he continues, the solution to this isn't necessarily sabbaticals, but fixing a broken system that all too often recruits the wrong men, underpays pastors, mistreats them, and churns through them faster than NFL teams through coaches. And this is a good point. And, having a little bit of sympathy for the guys who are going through this, because it can be hard, especially for young pastors, to have a little sympathy for them. A lot of them are inheriting or being hired on by really bad churches. And there are a lot of really bad churches that do churn through pastors. And it's because the pastors are not the actual leader of that church.
Yep.
The church ladies actually run that church. And he shows up in a bright, clean suit and a fresh, clean pair of pants, and they have their knives sharpened. They are ready to take him down and put him in his place so that he knows who the real people who run this church are the church marms. And that needs to be fixed. And if we don't fix that this problem will continue. And the seminaries are not preparing pastors for this. The seminaries are teaching pastors that they need to listen to women, that they need to go in and be careful and thoughtful and listen to women. And the seminaries need to tell pastors, no, if you show up and these women are being busybodies and they're being gossips and they are the ones who actually control, Paul has no uncertain words on the subject. That needs to be dealt with. And that's not happening. So these men are sent into the meat grinder with no armor and no weapons. And he continues, second, soft churches recruit and hire soft men to pastor their churches. Quote, many a hard day's work has driven a man to the ministry, end quote. These men are more comfortable talking about feelings with women than putting in hard labor. They like reading books, not solving conflict in their midst. This is effeminate. And yeah, he's absolutely right. I know guys who became pastors because they couldn't get a real job. All right. And when I was young, and I would tell my friends and my employers, I want to go into the ministry, they'd say, what, you can't make it in the real world? Right. There's this understanding, especially among non-Christians, that pastors are gay, that pastors are weak, that pastors are just guys who couldn't get a real job. You couldn't make it in the real world, so you became a missionary to Botswana. You couldn't get a real job, so you became a pastor to a small church out in the country somewhere where you could just kind of leech off of society. And the reason they have that understanding is because it's true. There are a lot of men who, because they are soft, because they are lazy or because they are incompetent, they have gravitated toward the ministry because that is a place that in our current society rewards incompetence. And he goes on, no working men will respect such softness. This is not new. Sabbaticals don't solve this problem either. Leon Pottles wrote of the early 1800s, businessmen disdained the clergy as people halfway between men and women. Ministers found the most congenial environment not in business, political clubs, or saloons, but in the Sunday school, the parlor, the library, among women and those who flattered and resembled them. Moreover, they were typically recruited from the ranks of weak, sickly boys with indoor tastes who stayed at home with their mothers and came to identify with the feminine world of religion. The popular mind often joined the idea of ill health with clerical image. And that's from The Church Impotent by Leon Pottles. Sean, did you have some things you wanted to say about that?
I don't know if that was the exact post I was thinking of, but basically, Eric Kahn had gone through like, here's our system for training pastors, and it was not, hey, we're gonna tell you to go to seminary on your own dime, and then come back to us maybe after 7 years or whatever crazy amount of time they need to be at school, because that's. I mean, that was the, I'm going to get to that, but that was the system that I got run through when I had in my head that I was called to the ministry. I mean, it's awful, dude. It's a diabolical system. Add my,
and the next thing that I had was this tweet from D. Kofi Adu Boahed, which I don't know if the
American
D
name
is, doctor or if that's his first name, but this is his commentary. He's quote tweeting Jason Kovacs. He says, I take a month off every year. I started in 2023 after a horrid 18-month period where I almost had a breakdown, almost wrote a brutal set of letters to a bunch of folks who had hurt our family and almost walked away from ministry entirely. I needed it. And, my response to this tweet from him was
yeah.
Oh, okay. So really, you almost had a breakdown. You almost wrote a brutal set of letters to people who had hurt you, almost walked away from ministry entirely. And this is not sounding encouraging, right? This is not what I want to hear from a guy who is supposedly a pastor, who is supposedly a leader of a church. But I love this. There's a different tweet he made where he says, I know we are not benefiting men, betting men, but what's the over under? This is someone who isn't in vocational ministry. And he's responding to somebody in some commentary, some thread somewhere. And you tweeted, I have a 1 in 12 chance of winning the bet that this Kofi guy is also not in vocational ministry, which absolute chef's kiss. Yeah. I mean,
I wasn't sure if that was going to go over people's heads, but basically 1/12 of the year, he's not in vocational ministry.
Yeah. He's checked out. He's off in the Bahamas or, New Mexico skiing or whatever it is he's doing for a whole month out of the year, abandoning his flock to whatever wiles the devil may have planned for them. And he's going to criticize other guys for not being in vocational ministry, but having an opinion. My guy, 1 whole month out of the year, you are not in vocational ministry. So, spare me the hysterics, but I'm not impressed. I'm afraid to say I am not impressed. And, we had some other commentary from, pastors. Tanner Cartwright says, the only sabbatical most of you need is a sabbatical from the buffet table. And just for clarification in the comments, he says, I'm saying a lot of you are fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's got a point. I mean, these are fat, effeminate men who are saying oh, woe is me, I need a vacation. And, this is, and I didn't pull up these tweets, but something that I'm seeing very commonly is people talking about the good pastors I've had have been bivocational. Paul made tents, right? He had a job. He didn't just leech off of his congregation. He had a job. And he was clear about the fact, as an elder, I could be taking money from your church. I could be getting support. I've earned that. Do not muzzle the ox that treads the grain. But at the same time, he had a job. He was a working man. And my pastors are all bivocational. We have multiple elders at my church, and they have real jobs. And they are manly men. I mean, one is an electrician, one is a carpenter, and one is retired, but he was a bank manager. And even though he's retired now, he still is a very active working man. He didn't retire and then sit back and be like, okay, I've done my duty. Now it's time for me to sit down and just rake in the shekels. These are men who I admire and respect because they work. And one of our pastors did take a sabbatical. Here's the thing, though. His sabbatical was health related. He has a disease that nearly killed him. And he took a sabbatical that was longer than a year for him to figure out how to deal with living with this disease that he had acquired in his old age. That is perfectly reasonable and understandable. Okay, there is a time and a place for sabbaticals. We are not out here saying that you can't ever take a break. What we are saying is this is something that is being abused. This is a luxury that a certain class has abused in order to live the easy life while pretending that they are persecuted saints. And in this original tweet from, actually, I think because Ethan simul posts on Twitter and Facebook, where he says, is there a group outside of clergy, academia, and lefty journalists that consider sabbaticals to be a normal thing? On the Facebook post, I commented underneath it. I said, well, school teachers take 2 months off in the summer and act like persecuted saints for it. It's the same thing. Teachers are always complaining about how hard their life is, and they get every summer off. And that's not to say teaching isn't hard work, but don't pretend like you're the hardest working person and woe is me. And, I get paid so little and you get the summer off. If you look at what teachers get paid in Texas, teachers are paid pretty well. I remember a couple years ago, there was a debate, and I don't remember what the office was, but it might have been lieutenant governor or one of these. But these politicians were fielding questions from the audience. And one of these women stood up in the audience and was like, what are you going to do for our teachers who are so underpaid? And the first guy gets up. He's like, our teachers are underpaid and overworked. We need to fix that. Next guy gets up. And he's like, our teachers are the hardest working among us, and they're so underappreciated. And the third guy got up and he's like, actually, teachers get paid pretty well. If you factor in the fact that they're taking 2 months off, if you deduct that, as it were, from hours worked, teachers are making as much as doctors in the state of Texas. Teachers are very well paid. So it's not a problem with the teachers. Yes, our school systems need to be reworked, but I don't think that's the problem. And he got booed by the audience. All these hysterical women who are, I can't believe you would say something so evil as all that. Our teachers are underpaid and overworked, and I can't believe you. And he ended up winning that election, which I was very happy about. But if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, I believe that was Dan Patrick who said, yeah, our teachers are great people and they work very hard, but they're not being underpaid and overworked. It's a job. Get over yourself. And that's what we need to say to these pastors is, look, it's a job. Get over yourself. you're spineless, you're weak, you're fat, and you're complaining about how hard your life is. Look, like Connell said, right? He said, I work 5 10-hour days in a blue collar industry, breaking my back. I don't get a sabbatical. Okay. Life sucks. All right. Work sucks. I know. But you got to get over it. And taking vacations all the time is sending the wrong message to the people in your congregation. Because what you are telling them is, I get to, I have to work so hard and I need a break, when they don't get one. Yep. And I think bivocational ministers, first off, churches need more than one elder to split the workload. I know not every church has this, but we do need plurality of eldership, if for no other reason, to help split the workload. Second off, bivocational pastors. We need pastors who have real jobs, who have skin in the game, who know what it's like to actually wake up at 4 a.m. and go and pull cattle out of a ditch, or, to crawl underneath a house and fix broken wiring or plumbing, or know what it's like to drive a backhoe in the scalding heat of a summer sun. We need men who are men to lead men. Men do not want to follow weak, spineless cowards. And when you are telling people like Kofi, and not trying to get on him too much here, but when Kofi is telling you, I need a month off every year, what you are telling the men in your congregation is that you are weak and they do not want to follow you. You are telling them you are weak and men do not want to follow a weak leader. Mr. Kofi, Mr. Aduboahen, brother, my brother in Christ, grow a pair.
Yeah, I went off a little bit more. I'm going to add my remove other media from. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I pulled it down.
Let me see if I can. There we are. This guy, I don't know who this is. The turquoise something, whatever. I had basically just used Ethan's tweet to give context again. So I retweeted it twice.
A tweet so nice to retweet it twice.
I know. I'm just trying to work that algorithm. This guy says, I'd love to see any working man, working in scare quotes, right? Any working man.
Yeah, you're not really working.
Yeah. I actually do my job around the house and everything outside of it too. I wouldn't be so cocky about me were I you. As if that's like some kind of threat. Yeah. Like
as if we don't.
If I was you, I wouldn't be trying to. Yeah. Like,
yeah. Dude, we all have wives and houses and children that we are also raising at the same time as having a job. You are not special.
Yeah. And so, me and my sarcastic ways. Wow, that's crazy. You do things around the house in addition to your job. Truly a god amongst men. And then he says, I don't know what exactly he was trying to say, but it's, no, I do very though G around the house, inside and out. And no, he does not work. I don't know, bro. So
the Jolly Brawler does not work.
So
do you know this man?
I mean, is that what he's saying?
He's one of the hardest working dudes I've ever met.
Yeah. So I say, I'm not shocked this guy blocked me. This is probably the first time someone has pointed out that pastors aren't doing some Herculean effort compared to their congregants. It looks like he turned day drinking to cope at the end there because he just fell apart. I don't know what he was doing. Like, okay, dude.
Can't even understand this rambling misspelled screed that he's tweeted here.
But just consider the hubris of that. Oh, this was a subtweet kind of thing. This, of course, from one of the great movies of all time, Wayne's World. This is me saying how it feels to be in the presence of a pastor who can write a sermon, mow his own lawn, and subvert conservative Christian interests online in a single calendar week. How do they find the time? And of course, this is them responding to Alice Cooper and saying, "We're not worthy." Because, that's kind of what, I mean, one person had, I know pastors do more than this, but one person had worded it as your weekly public speaking gig.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
honestly, for some pastors, including, that was the whole controversy with, who was the guy that got Andy? No, it wasn't Andy Stanley. That dude's a heretic. I'm thinking of, it was a Ligonier guy who wasn't even a pastor. This is out like in the Dallas area. And he, was it Steve Lawson that I'm thinking of?
Where he was getting handsy with, actually not handsy, had a full-on affair with a girl.
Yeah, but what came out of that was people were saying, the elders of that church were saying, we can't put him under church discipline because he's not even a member of this church.
Yeah, and he was not a member of any church.
Yeah, and he was being paid to come and preach every week. That was it. That's all he was doing. They were just giving him money every week to come and preach. So the people at that church were like, I thought he was our pastor. I didn't know that this was happening. So he wasn't even officially on staff. He was just
a guest speaker every single week.
Every week, yeah. So,
and I mean, if you're having to take a sabbatical from that, my guy, Sean and I do this show every week. All right. This is as much work as writing a sermon and preaching to an audience. The pastorate is much more than that, or should be.
And this, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to run through because I have a lot that I tweeted about this because, like I said, I was sitting there in the hospital being like, this child needs to hurry up.
Yeah, you were there for a while, man. We're all wondering.
So talking about the subversion aspect, that's something that needs to be talked about because a lot of the responses to these many tweets around this subject have been, in essence, you just hate pastors. That is not true. Some of these people that we've quoted, like Tanner Cartwright right here, who I retweeted, in quotes, he says, I need a sabbatical because stuff is hard. And his response is, my brother, what you need is to get your T levels checked. Yeah, you need to man up. It's got nothing to do with, oh, it's so hard. My job is just so much pressure. First of all, a lot of these guys bring this on themselves. That Kofi dude, that was the guy that was going around telling people, I'm more American than you. He was just railing against our guys. You guys aren't real Christians, blah, blah, blah. Well, are you getting paid to do that?
Bringing in his African work ethic.
Yeah. African work ethic, yeah. So he's the kind of guy who he'll just go after you, right? He spends, for a pastor, too much time online, right? Like he needs to do, that's one thing I love about my pastor. He doesn't hang out online, right? So he's not really fighting the culture war, but he's also not fighting the people who are fighting the culture war. Kofi is the guy fighting the people who are fighting the culture war. He's the guy, back on the home front who's ruining the rubber drive for the war front. He's the guy screwing up things for the guys who are fighting. Where was I going? That was a TGC thing. Oh, this was, I did not make this AI. I got this from somewhere. So that likely represents a real person. I don't know who it was. I basically just Googled like pastor talking to somebody. But it is clearly AI. And I said, hey, Johnny, I just finished what?
Go ahead and read it out for us because the text is kind of small.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny, I just finished a long day of importing foreigners and advocating for liberalism, making every aspect of your life and career worse. Also, you're being kicked out of the church because some McFaggot shared one of your tweets. I need a sabbatical to take the edge off. I believe that this here really gets to the root of my issue with the sabbatical thing, right? Because if my pastor's crushing it, right, which he does, he's the anchor of that church. We have other elders, but I mean, obviously there's just the one. It's a weird situation. There's really only one pastor, but there's like elders within. But most of these guys that are saying like, I need a sabbatical, life is so hard, like doing the Eeyore thing. Oh, bother, everything's hard. Oh, I'm so sad.
It'll probably rain. Yeah.
Which, speaking of, I'm looking at this over with the wind going on right now. I'm worried that my little pile of sticks is about to fall on me. But imagine this. You're a guy, like, for instance, I'll use the probably greatest example, Corey Mailer and Woe, right? They have brought so many people to the LCMS, ironically, but to Lutheranism in general, to the Lutheran faith, the creeds and confessions, but they didn't get paid to do that. Right? They just did that because they wanted it to happen, because they cared enough to make it happen.
Yeah, and you can just do things.
And at the same time, they're getting removed by the police. In Corey Mailer's case, getting removed by the police from the campus of the church when you're just trying to go and get the means of grace. So you're that guy on the front lines, and your own men, ostensibly, are the ones who are keeping you back from that fight. Thankfully, he was not actually held back from that fight, but they were just railing against him. So that's the guy saying, I need a sabbatical. I've been spending so much time being a anti-racist and kicking people out of the church for being to the right of Karl Marx. And I just, oh boy, I need to rest my bones. What was this? Some of the things I tweet. What was this here? What do you have this post put up? I think this was the one where he was just being crazy about like, oh, don't pull it up again. You did pull it up already. It was the one where he was just like, I almost wrote letters to people. Which apparently is a big thing for Africans to use written language.
Strongly worded letter, yeah. Sounds very British, very European. Like, I wrote a strongly worded letter. Yeah, hey, that does not cut it here, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but I would just said totally emotionally stable behavior. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh yeah, and this is important too. For the record, my pastor is awesome. It's your pastor who sucks.
Right.
I'm talking about you, guy, whoever you are. Where? Oh yeah, this was my banger about him not working 1/12 of the year. Where was I at? Oh, it's my boy again. Look at that.
Yeah, and for those of you who are not following Sean on Twitter, link in the description. Do it. This guy produces bangers.
Sometimes, yeah.
Now, I wish my Twitter feed was as interesting as yours.
Oh, this is the one I was looking for. Here we go. Lock in, folks. Well, you know what? Let's read this whole thing. This guy had a take, not a good take, but a take nonetheless. He says, I don't have a take on pastors and sabbaticals, and then he gives a take. Instead, I'll just say this again. The based right, in scare quotes, is a deconstruction movement that shares much in common with the ex-evangelical movement, including especially an unmistakable contempt toward pastors. Now, as I said, my pastor's great. Your pastor sucks. But here was my response to that, and this is going to lead into the last thing I have to say on this. I said, here's what's actually happening. Young men pursued ministry over the last 2 decades and stopped at some point because every seminary in America went liberal. Now, those who sold out to the left in seminary are pastors and complaining about how hard it is. Man up, pastor. So this is me. I don't think I said anything else about this past this point, right? I don't believe so. Muslims setting churches on fire. That's nothing new.
They've been doing that for thousands of years.
Yeah, jerks. So this was essentially my story, right? I went straight to high school. You know, I got my pastor saying, like, you know, I'm telling him, I think I'm called to the ministry. Okay, let's have all these the retired pastors in the crowd. We're all going to lay hands on you, and we recognize you, and we're praying for you, right? Not the healthiest thing, but hey, it's the SBC. You know, that's the world that I grew up in. And so then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? How do I become a pastor? Go to college. Oh, on my own dime? Yeah. Okay, so I'll do that. And then, ran out of money. Oops. So then I go join the Army, right? And I got student loan people trying to collect money while I'm in Afghanistan. And my dad telling me, well, good luck. You can go and find them out there. Like,
yeah, go get them.
So that whole song and dance. But then I used the GI Bill, get back to college. Yeah, I'm going to be a pastor. I'm going to, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, I thought I was going to be. Learn a bunch, obviously fell in love with Greek New Testament studies, things like that. A lot of great information there. 4 years later, get out, graduate. And then around that time, so this would have been when I graduated, would have been 2018-ish. I think that's right. Summer of 2018. Around that time, the SBC got incredibly woke. And if you say, no, you're just making that up, or you're exaggerating. That's around the time that dude put out the Woke Church, but like a book that was called Woke Church, which we've covered on this show before. Eric Mason, that's his name. He was trying to get people to use that unironically. And so the SBC went incredibly woke. All that weird race stuff started coming up. You had all these people trying to like make statements and stuff like that, where it was like, well, critical race theory is actually a very helpful tool, and just goofy stuff. So it was around that time where I was like, well, where am I going to go now? Because my undergrad is through an SBC college. The seminaries, I mean, I would have to, because I'm talking to guys who had already graduated and then went to seminary, right? So they're going to the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, right? This is the top dogs. This is where Al Mohler is at. Like, we're crushing it. And they're just telling me these crazy stories about like what the professors are talking about, right? Also, just to back up what I'm saying, this is around the time, I want to say John Harris went to Southeastern Theological Seminary. No, that's not. No, maybe that is right. He went to one of them.
It was either Southern or Southeastern.
It was not Southern. I'm fairly certain it was not. It was not the one in Louisville. I want to say.
Yeah, I think I remember him saying Southeastern.
But yeah, he because the president of that one was goofy as all get out at the time too. I'm sure he still is. So I'm not the only one who was saying this, right? Like John Harris, that's how he made his name. That's why you know the name John Harris, is because he was exposing that same stuff I'm telling you right now that I thankfully dropped out from. But keep this in mind. So all these guys who were like, they were seniors when I was a junior, they graduate. Hey man, what's Southern like? You're with the big dogs. You're learning directly from the guys we've been reading. This is so cool. And they're just like, man, dude, like this professor won't shut up about Martin Luther King and like all the racial injustice and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, being white is the bane of the world's existence and all this kind of stuff. And so basically I was like, well, I used the GI Bill. That's a sunk cost. I got my degree. I'm not going to go into debt to get a seminary degree. The entire SBC. I mean, so basically I had the option of I could go into debt. I could do my 3 years, get an MDiv. I would have to lie my way through it because I wouldn't be actually believing the things that they're trying to teach me. So I for the sake of my own conscience, I said, well, I can't do that. So I've just got to cut my losses and you know, just get a real job, as we were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However,
and this is a common story. I mean, I know a lot of guys who did this exact same thing, who looked at the quality of professors, looked at the quality of teaching going on in college and seminary, and just said, you know what? This isn't working. This is not working out. This is not going to benefit me or the people I care about. I'm just going to go be a plumber. I'm just going to go work on a ranch. I'm going to go be a ranch hand. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go get a real job because this whole situation, this whole economy is fake and gay.
Yeah. So with me, I was comfortable with going to a paperwork mill, which is what you call these like degree factory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, strip mall.
You pay money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get money. And that's what seminaries have become. Right. Mm-hmm. They're not even teaching you. James White has pointed this out. Years ago, he was talking about this. They don't even teach you Greek anymore. They give you like Greek skills. Right. So you fresh out of that class is like where I'm at after not having touched this stuff for like 10 years. Right. Mm-hmm. Like you're just, I know how to use, was it Blue Letter Bible or whatever, which is a great website, but you got to know more than that. Like,
yeah, you got a degree to figure out how to use an open source website.
Right. So where I couldn't go forward was, first of all, I didn't want to put my family in debt while I'm trying to start a family, and I don't want to go into debt, and I could not lie my way through it. That's where I was like, you know what? If if Christ's death means anything to me, I'm not going to lie my way through seminary and tell these people that I affirm the things that they're trying to get me to affirm so that I can then be a pastor after that. And then, of course, I became Lutheran, and that just put, the final kibosh on that whole thing, because then it was like, well, then I'd have to go, I have an undergrad, and that's usually what a lot of seminaries care about, undergrad in anything, right? Mm-hmm. But then I'd have to go, pull up my entire root system here in Texas, go to Fort Wayne or go to, where's the other one? St. Louis, maybe. And have a whole other life there, right? Take all the 3 kids and a wife and just go live up there until they can send me wherever it is they want to send me after that. I can't live like that.
Yeah, and you don't even get the choice either.
Yeah.
They determine where you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no way for a family man to live. Mm-hmm. So all that to say, so I told you there were the people like a year ahead of me. I heard their stories, right? Well, then I moved to Texas, and I'm keeping up with the people who are at my level, even though they're like, at that time, what would they be like? 21 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time I'm like 30 or something like that, because I was using the GI Bill. I was like the Billy Madison with the desk that's too small with all the little kids in the classroom. And I'm hearing their stories, and they're all talking about oh wow, we're learning so much. People are wrong about critical race theory, or what was the other? Oh, there was another hot term that was kingdom, some kind of, I don't know. It's basically civil rights from the 60s, baptized kind of stuff. And so I'm listening to them and I'm like, they're going through all the things I knew I would go through if I were to do that. But instead of just lying their way through it, they just accepted it. They took it.
They were indoctrinated.
Yeah. And they just went ahead and, yeah, like you said, they were indoctrinated. And so now those are the pastors, right? All that to say, these guys are now the people in the pews who then, put that in their Twitter profile. Oh, I'm pastor of this church, whatever. So that gives me authority on Twitter. And, you don't understand what I go through, right? And they're just talking, oh, it's so hard and all this kind of stuff. Dude, part of my undergrad thing was shadowing pastors. They were not stretching their means by any. Maybe
they were not at bandwidth.
Yeah, like financially, I would agree. Like I was at a very poor church at one point, and the pastor, I'm sure, wasn't getting paid great, but his wife was a professor at the college, so I know she was making good money. So, like, all that to say, the work itself, like his day to day, like that. Come on, man, he wasn't.
Yeah. And that's that point that you make about his wife was a professor there. That is something else that I've noticed about every single pastor I know who has a doctorate. And the one that comes to mind immediately is Dr. James White. They all have working wives because the kind of life schedule that you have to go and be a professional student for half of your adult life in order to get a doctorate, you have to be supported by your wife financially. And the kind of guy who is going to submit to allowing his wife to wear the pants, to let his wife be the firefighter breadwinner in his house, that is not the kind of man that is leading his household. And a man who is not leading his household cannot lead other men. Right? That is not a leader of men. Yeah. Professional students are not leaders of men.
Yeah.
So
and so the final thing, what I'm trying to get to, is kind of a message for all of these pastors. I have full respect for the office that you hold, right? If I were to have met Kamala Harris when she was vice president, which was awful and a black eye on this country,
a travesty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would still have respect for the office that she held at that time. Like I said, I brought John C. Breckinridge is like one of my all-time favorite historical figures. And his real claim to fame, he was vice president of the United States. Like John C. Calhoun, whose statue is making a comeback in some capacity. Another one of the greatest Americans that ever produced, was just a 2-time vice president. Like that was his culmination. Like I have all the respect in the world for that office. And I say that to say I have all the respect in the world for the pastorate itself. Right? I understand that you are the pastor of a church. I get that. Here's what you're not understanding. Pastors on Twitter who think that you're just going to talk down to us. Me, all these other guys, we've done all that training that you've done. And then we dropped out and just, took the degree, did something else with our lives, right? You don't have this like secret knowledge anymore. There's multiple generations now at this point, because it's been like 20 years since guys have been going through this, since I've literally watched it firsthand. We know our theology, right? Well, a lot of it, we had to just do it ourselves, but you don't have some secret crazy knowledge, and you see it on Twitter all the time. that these guys just drag literal pastors on basic theology things, right? Who's the guy? Owen Strahan, is that who I'm thinking of? The guy with the big shoes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or-
little man with the big shoes. Likes to mumble rap.
Yeah, he literally talking heresy on Twitter, and just lay people in the church are pointing out to him why that's heresy. This guy's supposed to be, he's a seminary professor.
He's a seminary professor. Mm-hmm.
And you have lay people, sometimes even women, right? You got the Stones crying out that this guy's a heretic. I mean,
yeah, that's a bad situation.
You can't talk, these pastors, you can't talk down to us anymore. It's not that situation, right? It's not where, in the 90s, say, where the average person in your pew, they're listening to DC Talk and 500 Frenzy or whatever, had not read through the Bible once before, right? They kind of knew what was going on in the Gospel of John, maybe, and that's not the case anymore. Like, we know our stuff now. We're knowledgeable people, and they try to do this thing, like putting pastor in your bio, or putting doctor. That's another funny one that people do. They'll put doctor in their name on Twitter, like in their handle. Like Jordan Cooper does that. It would just say Dr. Jordan Cooper. And that's a way of, before you could just purchase a blue check mark, that was like their way of like, oh, I'm an expert. Hey guys.
Yeah, I'm going to put you in your place. You think you can argue with me? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like that. I shared a tweet. You guys can, I'm not going to pull it up, but this guy was saying the COVID-19 pandemic is now officially longer than World War II. And his whole bio is like about his PhD, and I've written all these articles and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I've had 3 children during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Like, people are just going about their day, right? I was just in a hospital the other day.
Yeah, and I did not die.
Yeah, just walking in with my McDonald's and here we go, let's have a kid. Like, there's no pandemic happening. I don't care what your paperwork says. But it's just these educated idiot classes that you can't talk down to us anymore. And that's what really, and then you've got guys that just have all the confidence, the earned confidence in the world. Guys like Ethan that we're bringing up. He puts himself out there. He says it as it is. And guys like me and you respect him for that. And he's solid in what he knows and does. They hate that. They're just, it eats them up inside. Why don't you respect? You know what it is? It's the talisman thing. Have we talked about that on the show? Where
I don't know
when,
but yeah,
when the idea of like jewelry, right? You go to these like caveman tribes in Africa, or even Native Americans to an extent, and they would be like, "Oh, we'll give you whatever for your necklace that you have, because it's like made of gold, and they've never seen manufactured gold and all that kind of stuff." And so they want that because they're like, "Oh, this will give us the power that they have to build ships that
build
cross
roads and
ships.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. It's talisman thing. There was a post on Twitter. I'm completely ripping this off from. I can't think of who said it, but they were saying that's what a lot of Kofi Americans, let's just say that, those kind of people will. But I obtained the talisman. Why isn't this working? It's supposed to give me power over you because the paper itself has power. So let me beat you on the head with it. I don't care. We don't care about that because your seminaries are trash, right? And
we know that they're trash.
Yes.
We are not deceived.
Yeah, I mean, even I've stood up before for, we talk about James White. A lot of people say, well, he shouldn't call himself doctor. He didn't have like a legitimate doctorate, whatever. No doctors are legitimate. They're all just a matter of what you put into them, right? Like Harvard is not an accredited college, right? People trust your Harvard degree because it's from Harvard. They trust the name. It's a name brand thing. Oxford, right? You go to Oxford, it's not like there's some genie over him going, Susan Salabim, Oxford is
it's not in the water.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with the seminaries. That's why James White wouldn't start his own seminary, right? Because he said, these seminaries are trash. I'm going to start my own.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, Dr. White did go and get kind of a fake degree from a degree mill, if you look at it from a certain perspective. But he's talked about the fact that the guy he went to actually had standards. And yeah, he was just one guy in a little strip mall with like 5 students, but he actually taught real subjects and he had real standards and he wanted people to actually learn things. And you can look at Dr. White, and for all of the disagreements that we do have with him, which are serious disagreements in some cases, he is a very intelligent, well-educated man. I have no qualms about calling him Dr. White because he is very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
That is not the case for a lot of the men that I met when I was in college that had doctorates. I mean, there were some people that I was talking to at 18 years old, and I was realizing, wait a minute, this guy has never seriously considered the question that I just put to him, and he has no intention of ever doing so. You know, he got his little talisman, he got his degree, he got his job teaching students his little niche subject, and he's just going to ride that out for all eternity. And that is not somebody that I have any respect for, and I never will, and you can't make me.
Yeah. You know, that's why I have a lot of respect for, you know, I don't know, like, Brian, is it Suave? Brian Suave?
Brian Sauve.
Sauve, okay. I always think like Rico Suave when I say that.
I always think of the shampoo. Suave.
Yeah. Suave, yeah.
Suave.
But him and Eric Kahn, I have all the respect in the world for them because I know that those people in their pews have hard questions that they're asking them. They are pounding them with just these crazy questions. It's like when I first met my current pastor and I'm asking him questions about stuff because I was still fairly new to Lutheranism at the time. And he's like, you know, you ask the kind of questions that in seminary we used to like sit around, drink beer and talk about. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah. Like the deeper
pastors in training talking about just deep stuff. And to me, that it doesn't seem like a very deep question. It should just be a black and white answer. And I'm sure if you know, I was at like Martin Luther's table talk, he would just be like, oh yeah, that's this, that, and the other. But the guys in the pews, like with churches like that, like I know that guys are going up to Brian and Eric and just like asking, they're not trying to be deep or whatever, but it's just something that's bothering them. Yeah, it's just something that's bothering them. Hey, I was reading the scriptures the other day and I came across this, right? Those are always the craziest questions. Like the questions that are easy are the ones where people aren't reading scripture and they're just like, why does bad thing happen? Why do I like putting things in my butthole? Like it's just
if God real, why can't I move in with my girlfriend?
Yeah. So I'm sorry that went down a weird road. But the point stands. I respect guys like that because I know they have people in the pews who are pushing them, that are asking these crazy questions, who have those kind of needs.
Well, and it's because they're not riding out on easy street, right? They didn't get their degree and think, okay, I've arrived. Now I'm going to take my sabbatical every year. And I'm just going to ride it out to retirement and live the easy life until I die. They actually, oh no, please don't clip that. But, they're actually continuing to grow. They're seeing their ministry as an opportunity to grow in their personal life as a way of helping their congregation grow in their personal life. They are on a journey together. They're not just, it's the talisman idea. Like you said, they didn't get the talisman and then go, okay, I'm done. I arrived. I quit. So yeah, lots of respect. They don't have a college degree. I still respect the heck out of them.
Looks like you're trying to pull up. Is that
I had one more. I have one more tweet that I'm going to show, and this was pretty funny. And then we'll get to comments and close out. This was Michael Foster, good guy. Don't always agree with him, but he's a great guy. And he just posted this: is me looking down on all my struggling working class church members from my 5-star resort hotel room balcony during my 3rd pastoral sabbatical of the year. Yeah, here he is on his balcony looking down in disdain, and he's got all of his books behind him, Wayne Grudem and all of those, But I mean, obviously this is satire, right? I mean, he's obviously exaggerating the point, but I mean, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like from the courtyard when we're looking up at these pastors who have just absolute disdain for us. This is what it feels like. This is what we feel when you tell us you need a sabbatical. Oh, woe is me. I can't believe I have to work. I can't believe I have to present a sermon every week and listen to your problems and give you marital advice and help you with your family struggles and theology. Like, I can't believe that I would have to work so hard. This is what it feels like when you tell us that. It's like, we don't feel appreciated.
You know what? This feels like an AI stack of books. Like you've got a Wayne Grudem, you've got the Reformation.
Systematical Theology by author unknown, and then this one here is Wayne Grudem. This one here is a Wayne Grudem. So that's I guess that's the French Wayne Grudem.
Systemical Theology.
Systemical Theology, and the Reform of the Rheumatologues. That's classic. Siège Reformation, another French book. This guy's bilingual, but definitely an AI stack of books there. But great meme. All right. With that said,
one piece of advice that I will give you that my pastor professor. He wasn't my pastor. He was a pastor, but he was one of the professors at the undergrad that I did. This really stuck with me, and I think about this almost every week at church. But it was in a preaching class, and he said, "Your sermon is not the highlight of anyone's week."
Right.
And we were like, "Oh, that's all," because we're all sitting there like, "Oh, when I'm going to craft this sermon that's just going to burn the house down.
Going to blow them away."
Yeah. And he was like, "What did your pastor preach about on Sunday?" And everyone's like, I don't know. Tell me one illustration from his sermon that he gave. Think about that, pastors. Nobody cares.
Reality check.
You don't need to spend 12 hours preparing a sermon that nobody cares about. You don't have to do that. Just be real.
And that's not saying don't prepare a sermon, but don't make it the only thing that you do all week long. I mean, I've heard stories from pastors that are like, "Oh, I spent 4 days writing this sermon." It's like, you're going to get up there for 30 minutes and it took you 4 days to put this together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the pastors I know who do the whole, I spent 4 days prepping the sermon. It is a 30-minute sermon. My elders give an hour-long sermon. All right, we're in it for the long haul when our pastor gets up there. And you know what he's doing? Exposition.
Yep.
He is expositing the scripture. Yeah, he did his research. Yeah, he looked into the Greek. Yeah, he looked into the commentaries. And he spent 1 day doing that because he's got a real job. All right, and the stuff he's laying on us, I mean, it's good stuff. It's great stuff. And he didn't have to spend 12 years of his life learning about it. This is what he did over years of serving faithfully. But, getting back to this talisman issue, there's one more thing that I wanted to point out, which is, the whole, I've got a degree, you can't argue with me, I'm a pastor. The thing that it reminded me of is this quote from William Tyndale where he says, "The boy that driveth the plow shall know more of the scriptures than educated priests." the internet has done that, where sermons used to come from these educated people. And this kind of happened slowly. It didn't happen all at once, but we had this glorification of education in the pastorate to where, like, the churches in my town, you'll drive by and the billboard will have the pastor's name, and just about every other church has Dr. So-and-so.
Yeah.
And these are not mega churches. These are small town churches with pastors with doctorates.
Yep.
They don't need doctorates to serve a small congregation faithfully. I mean, it's
or the
cool.
ones with the billboards. Have you seen the billboards where it's like the guy and his wife? Like that's the billboard for the church.
That's
where
it's always the ethnic churches that do that. You notice that?
Yes, I saw one where it was a full size billboard, like as big as billboards get, and half of it was like the pastor. He happened to be black, and he was
every single time. It just happened to be
like half of it. Half of the billboard, because they're long, was him like with his Bible, like in some
teaching pose,
and then the other part said like whatever church where Christ is at the center, and I was like, no, clearly you're at the center because you're half the billboard. Like this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, man.
Yeah. Pretty wild stuff.
Wrap up,
but yeah, let's hit the comments real quick and then let's close this out. But Yellow Moss says that tweet was a banger, talking about the response to Kofi, the 1 in 12 tweet. Yeah, it was a good one. And then he says the 1 in 12 tweet went over Kofi's head. He blocked you just so he wouldn't have to do fractions.
It's already simplified, Kofi.
True story.
You don't have to simplify it any further.
He says my wife loved the Wayne's World tweet.
Oh, good.
And he says Eric Mason.
Yeah. Talking about the woke church book, noting that Ligon Duncan, that dude, head first into the woke thing, dude.
Well, he wrote the foreword on the book.
Yeah. He put that movement on his back and said, "Follow me into
perdition,
whatever pit we're running it." Yeah, perdition. There you go.
No, the road to hell. I am going to get as big a following as I can. I'm going to walk them straight into hell. Yeah. Yellow Moss says, I'm too honest and blunt to go to any seminary, but I expect it would be extremely easy if I did go. Yeah, the hard part about seminary is not going to be the workload. No. It's going to be surviving the absolute evil, the heresy that they will pronounce and demand that you pronounce in order to make it through their system.
Yeah. That and the money. You're basically just paying money to get the degree. It's not that you're paying money and then the weak are left behind, right? Like it's not that. It's whoever pays the money gets the degree. That's it. Sit in your class, write your little goofy paper. That's it.
Anyways. True story. Well, with that said, folks, it is time to close it out. We've been going almost a whole 3 hours. Pray for Chase that his house does not get whipped away in a tornado.
Yeah.
That he and his family remain safe. Pray for the fellows who are in the path of that storm going across the South right now. I was driving west and I was watching clouds going east. So it was a sight to behold. But also, if you're in Texas, pray for rain because we could definitely use some of that storming down here. We've got wind storms, but wind with no rain. All right. And the Proverbs talks about wind with no rain. It has been a dry spring and the cattle are suffering and the tanks are low. So pray for rain because we really need that. But with that said, folks, the after show for our father supporters is after this. And for those of you who are father supporters, we appreciate you. For the brother supporters, our after show for you will be at the end of the month, and we will see you there. But for the rest of you, go to bed because tomorrow is a work day. Tomorrow is a day that God has prepared good works for you to do, and you need to be rested so that you can do them. God has prepared great things for you this week. Be courageous, be strong, and do not submit to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people who tell you that you can't just do things. Go and do great things this week. And with that said, farewell.